Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast, episode 183, All I Want for Christmas MLB Edition. I'm Nick, and we have Harrison tonight. How are we doing, Harrison?
Fantastic, Nick. This is I'm really excited for a special Christmas edition. And don't adjust your sets at home. Nick really is flashing. Legally flashing. Whoa,
legally.
easy now.
Yeah, I can put them on steady, and there's actually a higher setting, but I didn't want to have a seizure while live on the show. So
yeah, we don't want to hurt the viewers or Nick. Nobody should be harmed during the filming of this podcast.
Yeah. So if you are sensitive to flashing lights, let us know in the chat, and I'll shut them off. Anyways, before we get going, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram and Rumble. You can also subscribe on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. And obviously the affiliate programs that we are part of, Dick's, MLB Shop, and Lids. I want to first thank everybody for their support already. We have already gotten quite a bit of business through those links from our page. So keep it up. Like it only supports us into making this show for you guys and we love having you come on and talk baseball with us as well. So this only supports us further. So we appreciate the support we've gotten so far. And go ahead, if you're going to buy something from these three links, just buy it through us, and it helps support us, and it doesn't cost you anything extra.
Yeah, I got an email today, and Dick's is running another big winter special, huge discounts. Lids has got another wave of winter specials coming up. MLB Shop is running some Christmas after Christmas stuff. So if you're shopping for the gifts you didn't get, this is a great time to go check out those links.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to jump right into the news of the week first. We're going to get through that real quick, and then we'll get into the All I Want for Christmas part. So here we go. Sad news to start in the baseball world. The passing of Ricky Henderson, pretty unexpected. But this guy embodied what baseball is. Was during that time. He was so dominant. His all-time records that I don't think will ever be broken. Most career stolen bases, 1,406. I mean, he's got that by almost 500 stolen bases.
And I think the next closest active leader is like 900 steals behind him. Like nobody's ever going to sniff that record.
No. And was it Lou Brock, I think, is in second with like 967 or something like that. So it's not close. Most runs scored in a career, 2,295. That's also a staggering number. Steals in a single season in the modern era, 130. I mean, think about the season that Ronald Acuna had. Yeah, he doubled it. Like
it's not right. It's 162 games. He had 130 stolen bases. I mean, that's almost one a night.
Yeah. There's a clip going around now when he was on with Harold Reynolds on MLB Network talking about pitchers' elbows and how he looks at the pitcher's elbows and nothing else. He doesn't, like when we were at base runners, we were taught look at the right foot, the right heel, and the left heel. He's like, I don't look at the feet, I look at the elbows because the elbows tell me where the pitcher's gonna go. And just like Harold Reynolds was like,
like and what's amazing is like you watch some of the old films of him stealing bases, and I mean the jumps he got. Like there are times the pitcher hadn't even lifted their leg and he was already on the move. Like he knew where you were going before you were going. And he wasn't afraid of you throwing over because he'd probably still beat you a second anyways. Like it was ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, absolutely crazy. Most steals after the age of 40, 72. Dude, I turned 40 this year. I can't even get out of bed. Most leadoff homers, 81. I think the next closest is Springer, and he's still in the 50s, I believe.
Again, not that close.
Yeah. And then most steals in a decade is crazy. 838 steals in 10 years.
That's like double the active career leader for where they're at so far. Like forget about a 10-year window. Like unreal. And I don't think, for those of us who got to watch him and sadly for us, we caught a lot of the end of his career.
Which was still ridiculous.
Yes. But like there was nobody that wrecked a game like Ricky Henderson, whether it was a leadoff home run, whether it was him, if you walked the guy, you knew he was going to be at second or third. He wrecked baseball games. That's what he did, night after night after night. And I can only imagine the terror that he was to pitchers and opposing teams.
Yeah, I think he also has like the most unintentional walks too, and
Yeah, he walked a ton. I mean, and you might as well just let him hit a double. Like he was on first, he was getting the second. And what amazed me with him is how many times he stole third, like uncontested. Catchers wouldn't throw because
Yeah.
it was just that. It was.
Yeah. Well, and catcher's got a good view of that, right? Going from second base, he's like, "Well, he just got a 10-step head
He's
start.
halfway
Like,
there
I'm
before the
good."
pitcher releases the ball. I don't have a shot, and there's no point in throwing it. And there were times when catchers, like out of respect to Ricky, were like, "I don't want to throw it away. I'm not going to throw him out, and I don't want to throw it away and give him an extra base. I'm just going to hold it. I'll put the ball in my pocket because I'm not going to get him anyways."
Yeah, he's going to the next base anyway, so
Yeah,
it doesn't
just
really matter.
completely wrecked baseball games. Changed the view and the perception of a leadoff hitter completely.
Yeah.
And just an absolutely tragic loss for baseball. And love him or hate him, there are obviously people, the showmanship and the ego and the third person talking. There's a lot of things about him that irked a lot of people. But man, the dude, he deserves to do whatever the hell he wants when you put up the numbers he put up.
Yep, he would have fit right in with today's game, that's for sure.
Yeah, he had the swagger long before swagger was a thing.
Yeah,
I love the video going around of Harold Reynolds talking about when he won the stolen base title with 60 because Henderson was hurt. It's friggin' hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, Ricky would have had that by the All-Star break.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
60. Ricky would have had 60 by the All-Star break. Click.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but he's great. I mean, that's the thing. So like the guy, a lot of guys in baseball today talk, Jazz Chisholm talks and lots of these guys talk, but he backed up every friggin' word he said.
Yeah, he did.
But sure. All right. R.I.P. to a legend.
R.I.P. in peace. All right. Red Sox signed Walker Buehler. News came in today. So 1 year, 21.05 million. Yeah, right. But we're looking at this potential Red Sox starting rotation, Harrison. And how are you feeling about it? Garrett Crochet, Walker Buehler, Brian Bayo, Lucas Giolito, if he comes back in time from his elbow, Tanner Houck, Cutter Crawford. How are you feeling about that rotation going?
I was in the car today driving back from somewhere and kind of thinking about this because the Buehler news had come out a little bit earlier than that. And I was like, man, that rotation can be so good. But then my immediate thought went to, but oh crap, like Crochet, injury history, Buehler, 2 Tommy Johns, Giolito coming back off of Tommy John, Sandoval coming back off of Tommy John.
I forgot even to put
Patrick
him
Sandoval
in there.
coming back midseason. You've got 4 starters who are recent Tommy John recipients. I guess 3 are recent Tommy John. I think Garrett Crochet was a shoulder, but when it comes to sheer talent, that is probably a top 3 rotation in the American League. But there's a hell of an injury history that comes with those guys. So healthy, I'm very excited. But I'm also very nervous about how many of those guys make it through the year.
And maybe the Red Sox, are playing with fire a little bit here, but the history says when these guys come back from Tommy John, that next year's a usually pretty good year. Yeah, so maybe they're just banking on that. And listen, I completely forgot about Sandoval going in there too. That's 7 deep. If you absolutely need to, right? You can move Houck to the bullpen, although I think he cemented his role as a starter. You can move Crawford there. You have some flexibility there. So if that's the case, who do you think the odd man's out? Do you think it's Cutter
I think Cutter Crawford for sure is the odd man out. He was good last year. He had a good first half. He had a really tough second half, and he kind of ended up right back where he typically is, which is about a 500 pitcher. As we always say, water kind of finds its level, and he did. But he's one of those guys who has good stuff. Any part of the game, he can come in, pitch a while, pitch for a little while, pitch in short relief. He gives you the most flexibility. He's also young, and he can he's younger than the group. I think he can bounce back. He doesn't stand out to me as like a must be a starter kind of guy. Bayo does. I think Houck has proven it. And the other guys are clearly all starters. So I think that Crawford's the odd man out. And it's possible that you see a guy like Bayo maybe slide out when everybody's healthy. Bayo's going to have to earn his spot this year. He did not have a good season last year. He's continued to tease us with talent, but not put up numbers. And I think he's going to have to earn a spot this year, or he's going to find himself either back in AAA, getting more seasoning, or maybe coming out of the bullpen. But he's got to put up this year.
I kind of hope that the Sox here roll with a 6-man rotation to save these arms a little bit. Maybe, like I said, Giolito's not coming back for a little bit. I don't know the timetable on him exactly, but I would roll with a 6-man rotation here. You got guys with, like you said, arm injury history. Sorry. I think you roll with that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think it's.
So yeah.
I mean, look, they've got better talent in this rotation they've had in a long time, and I love the fact they've got to wonder, like, what do you do with all these arms? Like, this is a great problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah, so Buehler didn't accept the qualifying offer, or I don't think he was even offered a qualifying offer by the Dodgers. Yeah, so he became a free agent and then ended up signing with the Sox today. So I'm honestly surprised that it was only a 1-year deal, and a 1-year deal, got it.
Well, and
done.
What surprised me, it's a 1-year deal. There's no option. There's a couple $1 million worth of the incentives based on, I think, it starts and innings pitched. But like there's no option in that. So this is literally a 1-year kind of prove it contract. My hope is if he's good and he shows he's kind of returned to form, that they talk extension with him. But I think Buehler understands he was not good in the second half of last season. He was good in the playoffs, but he's got to prove that he's that guy again after coming back and being underwhelming.
Yeah. Is this Walker Buehler or Christian Walker? Because I didn't put that slide in tonight. I completely forgot about his signing, but Christian Walker signed with the Astros, which was
we talked about that last week.
Covered it on Friday.
Yeah, Friday. Talked about Friday.
Yeah, yeah. But I really hope it's a bounce back year for him, and he just absolutely dominates for this Red Sox staff and team. Because, like we said, they'll put up runs, and we were screaming for starting pitching help about a month ago when it looked like they weren't going to get any of these guys, and they've made some moves. They made the right moves. I think the Red Sox are going to be all right.
Yeah, and I think that people need to remember how dirty Walker Buehler was in 19, 20, and 21 when he was healthy. He made 30 starts in 2019. He made 33 in 21. He made 8 in 2020, the shortened season. But I mean, he was a 3-ish ERA. He was unhittable at times. If you're getting that Walker Buehler, not the 5.38 ERA of last year in 16 starts, because he kind of found his way back, he'll be the nastiest 2 or 3 starter in all of baseball.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I love the fact that they've stockpiled arms. They didn't spend a fortune on them.
Right, and it'll be nice to watch a Red Sox game where they can actually win a game 2-1, because all the games that they've won, they've had to score 6+ runs. Well, towards the end of the year, the beginning of the year was a lot different. But,
I mean, this is a team that scored the 9th most runs last year, and they are a +1 when the season was over. You didn't prevent runs at all, and this starting rotation is built to get you deeper into ball games and not make you have to win games 8-7.
Right. All right, Josh Naylor to the D-backs. So the D-backs send Slade Ciccone and a competitive balance round B pick, which means this goes to, it's in between, I believe they said the 2nd and 3rd round of the MLB draft. It goes to a team that's below the tax threshold. I think it's how it works.
So if you don't pay, if you're not paying luxury tax and you stay below the threshold, you get basically like a bonus pick as an incentive to. I mean, like we said, baseball needs a salary cap, and in many ways, baseball's put incentives in place to encourage you to stay under that limit. But obviously, 9 teams this past year didn't. But that's a nice little benefit to these teams that are trying to develop, and that's where MLB's tried to help these teams that are developing players by giving them incentives to be able to pick up more players to develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not a free agent until 2026. So I mean, D-backs really gave nothing. He's 1 more year arbitration eligible, so they didn't really give up much. Ciccone had like a 6 ERA. Promising young arm. Maybe he goes to the Guardians and does some work there, but we'll see. But D-backs needed that first base hole, and they got it with this.
Yeah, and Naylor's not the defender that Walker is, but He hit 243 with 31 108. I mean, offensively, you're not going to notice a difference. He might even be a hair better than Walker offensively. But Naylor is also pretty durable, generally. And then the Indians, I keep calling them the Indians. The Guardians immediately turned around and signed Santana, Carlos Santana, to a 1-year deal to bring him back to Cleveland to fill in for Naylor. Yeah. And he's a 39-year-old, basically a 1-year return. I think it's probably a good move for the Guardians. Pick up a couple of prospects, slide in an old friend, and go from there.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Yankees strike Goldschmidt. So after losing out in kind of the free agent market with Christian Walker going to the Astros, they go to their backup plan with Paul Goldschmidt here. I put upgrade over Rizzo for sure. I mean, I think I'm an upgrade over Rizzo. And,
nobody might be an upgrade. Just leaving the spot empty might be an upgrade over Rizzo.
Yeah. You're getting a Gold Glove caliber first baseman. That also helps because we saw that defense implode in Game 5. Do we get a bounce back year out of Paul Goldschmidt? He's going to get a little bit of protection in that lineup. Does he bounce back, or are we still going to trend downwards like he has the last couple of years?
Well, I think Goldschmidt is who he is. I mean, he's 38 years old. Am I right? 30, 37, 38.
Yeah, it's something around.
I mean, he is. I think he's going to continue the trend down. I will say, when you look at his splits last year, his first half was horrid. His second half was actually really good. The hard part is he was trying to make up for a rough first half. He still has it. He had the second lowest batting average against fastballs over 97 miles an hour. Pete Alonso was the only guy in baseball worse. So you can beat him with a good fastball because the bat's not as fast as it used to be. But he's still a very smart hitter, very disciplined hitter, controls the strike zone well, gets into good counts. And he's going to lose a ball now and then for you. And he was an MVP 2 years ago. It's possible when you put him in that lineup and give him some breathing room and just let him do his thing, that maybe you do get a retro version of Paul Goldschmidt. But I wouldn't suspect he's going to return to MVP form, but I do think that he's better than last year's numbers showed. But even if he delivers last year's numbers and he's consistent and plays good defense, this is a slam dunk deal for the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Minaya back to the Mets today, adds much needed starting pitching for them. Because we were looking, I mean, they've made some moves for the starting rotation, I guess. Frankie Montas, Clay Holmes.
Yeah, Griffin Canning.
But this is, Griffin Canning. So this is, Canning went to the Braves, didn't he? He went to the Braves and the Jorge.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Who did the Mets just sign last week? Carry on. I'll look it up.
I could be. Whatever. 3 years, $75 million, so $25 million a year. So good for him for not taking the qualifying offer and then getting $4 million more a year. But does this move put the Mets into the playoffs? I'm not sure. I'm not sure they have the starting pitching depth.
I think it's a step in the right direction. I still don't think it's enough. But he was really good for them last year. I mean, I think him going back made a lot of sense, and I think we just assumed he'd go back. But is he enough at this point? No, you need an ace. Like, you still need somebody who's going to go out there every fifth day and scare the opposing team and make sure that losing streaks don't continue. They don't have that.
Right. Yeah. Griffin Canning did go in that trade.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who they signed last week. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I am too. But all right, next one. Phillies land Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins in a deal with them. So their rotation is now looking crazy scary. They got Nola, Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Suarez, and then you add Luzardo in there. 3 lefties, good lefties, and then obviously Nola and Wheeler in that rotation. Do the Phillies finally get past a round in the playoffs?
I mean, that might be the best starting rotation in all of baseball. I mean, Nola and Wheeler are automatic. Sanchez was nasty last year. Ranger Suarez is very consistent, and Luzardo is nothing but upside. That may be 1 through 5 the best rotation in baseball. If it certainly won't be the pitching that lets the Phillies down this year, unless the bullpen continues to be an anchor, which at times last year was great, at times it wasn't. But starting pitching will not be the reason they lose. 100%.
Yep. And they've made moves in the offseason for their bullpen. So they're only going to, and there's more arms to be had out there if the Phillies are interested. So, yeah, good deal for them. Nathaniel Lowe to the Nationals. So we heard he was on the trade block for a while. Thought the Yankees could have checked in on him as well. But left-handed reliever Robert Garcia is sent back to the Rangers. So it's pretty much the Rangers just being like, here, have him. Is this the veteran presence that a young Nationals team is looking for?
I think it helps. I think that, I mean, certainly you're getting experience. You're getting a guy who's been to the World Series. He's seen the bright lights. So I think yes, but I think what that team really needs is somebody who's been around a little bit longer. But certainly this is a good step in the right direction to surround those young guys with a player who knows how it's done, who knows how to get there, and can help them prepare the same way.
Yeah, I feel like this is just another Joey Gallo, another high strikeout, left-handed power guy. I mean, but whatever. Yeah. Rangers sign Jock Peterson. This one's an interesting one to me. I'm guessing he's going to DH most of the time, but I throw this question in there. Does Jock play first base with Lowe leaving?
He could. I mean, I think if the one thing Jock Peterson has shown is that he's got some positional flexibility. He can play wherever you need him. He can hit, and he is generally a very well liked and respected guy. And you can feel comfortable putting him into whatever clubhouse you've got. So I think that's why you continue to see Jock Peterson land on these teams that are in contention, because a guy like him adds a lot of value.
Yeah, he raked for the Diamondbacks last year, and in limited time, he platoons, and I thought he should have been in there a lot.
He did. He had sneaky good numbers.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to you, John. Thanks for stopping by as usual. But all right. And then Rays sign Eloy Jimenez. This is definitely, we were talking about it today, me and you, Harrison, like low risk, high reward. The guy's made of glass, though, and has been his whole career. He's had flashes where it's like, this kid is legit, but kind of like Byron Buxton, he just can't stay on the field.
Right.
So going to the Rays, maybe he has a breakout year there. I don't know. I mean, interesting sign here.
Well, I think for the Rays, like, this is the kind of player you're going to sign. A guy who's trying to prove he still has it, a guy who's trying to find a way to stay relevant, a guy who's just trying to latch on somewhere. I think Jimenez has proven that he's got the talent. He can play. He just has to get out there. And he's got to be able to do it consistently. And that's always been the knock on him, is that as good as he is, he just doesn't get on the field enough. And he's way too streaky. And the Rays, the Rays love those guys. They just love those guys. Yeah. They're inexpensive fill-ins for all the young players. And, worst case scenario, he goes there and doesn't work out. I don't think the Rays are expecting a lot this year anyways.
Yeah. And Pirates come through in the Kutch. So he signs a 1-year, $5 million deal. Now, I feel like I've been saying this for the last 5 years with Andrew McCutchen. Is this his final year?
I feel like McCutchen is one of those guys who, like, a 1-year deal's there for him as long as he wants it. Like, I feel like being, the dedication to Pittsburgh that he's had, the numbers he's put up, the respect he has in that area. I feel like it's one of those things, like, 1 year, $5 million, you can sign that contract every year forever. Like, just until you don't want to play anymore, just keep coming back, because if nothing else, he's a strong veteran presence. Fans come out to see him, and it's like going on tour of the legend. And I love the fact that the Pirates keep bringing him back. Like, just let the man play until he doesn't want to play anymore. I wish the Reds had done that with Joey Votto, because even if he's half the player he used to be, just his presence is enough.
Agree fully. So yeah, but instead of spending to make your team better, let's just keep bringing back the 45-year-old outfielder for $5 million a year. But
yeah, why not?
It's neither here or there. Yeah. I love McCutchen. Don't get me wrong. I really do love McCutchen. But when you're the Pirates, like, what are you doing? Like, if you're trying to make your team better, maybe you're not trying to make your team better. I don't know. But, and I mean, like you said, $5 million really is, a drop in the bucket. It's nothing to these organizations. But at what point do you be like, okay, like, thanks for your service all these years, McCutchen, but we gotta take a step forward. Like, we lose Paul Scanes in 5 years.
Right. Well, and I think that's honestly, like, I think McCutchen is inexpensive depth. He probably sells a few tickets. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. That is 10% of their budget for sure. No joke.
So anyways, Griffin Canning signed with the Mets a few days ago. He
did. So the Braves must have just released him.
Yeah, after the World Series, they traded Canning to the Braves, and then the Braves non-tendered him and dumped him. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure he signed, but yeah, he signed a 1-year, $4.25 million deal last week.
Yeah. But Merry Christmas to you too, Jay. Thanks for stopping by as usual. Yeah, I mean, I just said that too. It's probably his last year, in all honesty. Like, I would guess that as well. But like I said, I've also been saying that the last 5 years. So, I mean, who knows? Because we thought when he came back to Pittsburgh after he toured around, I was like, all right, he's coming back. He's going to sign the 1-year deal with Pittsburgh, and then he's going to go. And that was it. And then 3 years later, we're still sitting here.
I don't think anybody will ever sign an incentive-laden contract with the Pirates ever again after seeing what happened to Rowdy Tellez. There's no way anybody's signing an incentive contract with the Pirates ever again, nor should they. And you're 100% right. No, I hope that there's no incentives in that contract, because he'll never get them paid. Embarrassing.
Absolutely embarrassing. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. All right. Here we go, Harrison. All I Want for Christmas MLB Edition.
So this was a random thought I had maybe a month ago. I sent Nick a message going, we could do something special for Christmas, and I got this idea, and he was like, let's do it. So I thought it'd be fun for he and I, and some of these are in humor, some of these are serious. It is what we think every single MLB team should be wishing for this Christmas. And it like I said, some of them are more funny, some of them are serious, but what we think every team should be wishing for, and we'd love to hear in the chat what you guys are thinking they're wishing for. Leave comments. Let's make this interactive and fun. But I had a blast putting this together as we were trading stuff last night, and it was fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you all enjoy it.
Yeah. So here we go. We're going to start in the AL East, like this podcast likes to do, and we're going to start with our Boston Red Sox. So hang with us. We'll get to your team. Hang in there. All right. Since it was your idea, Harrison, you start.
All right, I'll start it off. So for the Boston Red Sox, my Boston Red Sox, what they're wishing for right now is a dominant closer. The biggest weakness last year for the Red Sox was the bullpen, and it was the 8th and 9th inning. They blew so many games late. They need somebody who can come in the 9th and slam the door. They've been missing that because for as good as Jansen was, he wasn't the same guy the last couple of years. He was not a shutdown guy anymore. Even when he got the saves, a lot of those innings were ugly. They need a dominant closer so that when you know the game is over in the 9th.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. Like, and not the guys towards the end of their career, like Kimbrel, and Jansen
or Chapman. Chapman is not your closer. Do not go into spring training thinking that, please.
No, like bring back Papelbon. Folk in his prime, he came over and helped us win that World Series in 2004. Like. A closer like that, like you said, when it comes over, it's over. It's lights out.
Yeah.
Go home. When Sweet Caroline comes on in the bottom of the 8th and somebody comes out in the top of the 9th, we know the game's over. That's it. That's all I want. But for me, it's an everyday second baseman. I need somebody that's going to be there night in and night out. I miss my Dustin Pedroia so much. I had some optimism with Vaughn Grissom being young, coming over in that sale deal. I had a lot of optimism, and it's not looking like it's panning out. I mean, he's still there. Maybe it will. And maybe that's what the Red Sox are banking on. That's maybe why they're not in the second base market right now. But I would love for them to sign Gleyber Torres and throw him in there. Or Bregman. If Bregman's willing to move to second, hell, do it. Why not? But I want an everyday cornerstone second baseman. Not even a cornerstone, I guess. Just somebody that's going to be there every night.
Well, and I think that, since Pedroia, you thought you had a couple guys you looked at, you thought might be it. You had Nick York in the minors, you thought might be it. Marcelo Mayer may be it. Vaughn Grissom McKee may still be it. It's still too early to tell. He hasn't performed. He didn't perform in Atlanta either. But he's also had a tough time getting on the field. But it's funny because that is a position where there's not a lot of like really great second basemen in baseball. It's kind of one of those odd positions where it doesn't necessarily attract a great bunch of talent, but it's such a differentiator when you've got that solid second baseman.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I knew that Andres Jimenez was on the market, dude, I would have swept him up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, there's not many second basemen better than Jimenez.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would love to see Bregman in Boston because we kind of talked about it without, if he goes to the Yankees, like, are the Yankees fan base going to get behind that? Like, I don't know, right? Because everything that happened in 2017, can you sell your fan base being like, hey, well, the cheaters come in here? I don't know. See, like Boston doesn't have any cares towards that. They don't care. Right.
I mean, I think Yankees fans would come around, but I think the initial reaction wouldn't be great. But I think Bregman would be great in Boston. Veteran, leader, been there, and he's a baller. Like that guy, he's at the ballpark every day. He's working hard. He plays a lot of games. He's a gamer, and I think that's what that team needs. Yeah. Very much like Pedroia was. Pedroia was built the same way. He was grinding it out day after day, and that's how Bregman is. And I think Bregman is a professional and would blend in well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's get on to the Blue Jays. For me, it's any support for Bo Bichette and Vladdy Guerrero at this point. I mean, I've said it for years. I think their pitching staff should be good enough. Like, you look at them on paper, you're like, all right, like they should be able to win me some games. There's just no support around Guerrero and Bichette. No. I mean, you can argue Springer, but he's got injury issues. Varsho is okay, but I don't know. I just say any support for Vladdy and Bo. And it's not lack of trying. The Blue Jays have tried really hard this offseason, and just nobody.
They were in on Soto to the very end, so it just tells you the level of desire they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with it there. I think that they badly need when Chapman left, that left a big hole at third base. They've never filled. They've got a lot of things they can address, but I think the most important thing for me for the Blue Jays is they need an ace. Alek Manoah was that guy. Alek Manoah forgot how to pitch. He's only 26. Maybe he'll come back. But I think that they need an ace. As good as Gausman, Berrios, Bassett, Bowden Francis. Like, they've got a bunch of guys that are good, but they don't have that one guy that kind of leads that group. And that was Manoah. Yeah. He was the loud, brash, outspoken, but he pitched. The guy was a Cy Young candidate. They need that guy. They need that guy that's going to lead the charge and shut down the losing streaks and wake people up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Blue Jays end up selling. I really do. I don't think they're not going to get anybody to go there. I think they just end up starting to trade these guys away and to see what they can get in return and start building within, because they're kind of going nowhere, just treading water.
Yeah, and I think they're at like we've said the last few weeks, like they're at a crossroads right now. Like, if they can't sign a couple of higher end free agents to boost that roster, then you got to decide if you go the other direction and start to sell off pieces, because you can't just keep playing this game of doing just enough to be relevant.
Yeah, they need pitching. You're right. They needed Otani. They they needed Acuna. They needed Judge. They needed Correa. Like, no.
And in their defense,
but
they've been
seriously,
in on a lot
they
of
need a
people.
lot.
They have aggressively
Yeah.
pursued. They aggressively pursued Otani. They were in on Soto. They're still talking to Corbin Burns. Like they're kind of like the Giants of the American League. They've got money to spend. They want to sign players. They're just not getting them. And it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of money. It is. I think it is really hard to sell a player on going to Canada to play, because now you're dealing with taxes across the borders. You're likely not going to relocate your family to Canada if you're a U.S. citizen. Like, there's a lot of things to consider when you go over the border for a player, and that may not be super attractive. People forget Vladdy Jr. was born in Canada when Vladdy Sr. was playing in Montreal. He's a Canadian citizen. Vladdy Jr. being in Toronto is like being home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is part of it. This is what we were just talking about. Like, no one kind of wants to play there. It's hard on your family that you probably already have established on another team or another location in the country. And you don't want to move. So it's tough. I think you're right. But all right. Tampa Bay Rays. Go ahead.
So I mean, I'll let you bury the lead here in a minute, but the Tampa Bay Rays, for me, they need a home. You've got a dome that is maybe getting repaired. We're still not sure yet. Money's been approved, but not enough. You've got a bond vote that it sounds like is going to happen, but it's still not kind of fully baked. The Rays right now are a team with no future home. You're not sure where they're going to be. At this rate, they're likely not going to have an actual full home for opening day of next year either. You can't leave this team playing in minor league stadiums while you play politics. And that's what the Rays are missing. And it's going to be hard to sign free agents when you don't have a permanent home. Ask the Athletics. So they very much need a home and a path.
Yeah, I mean, they have a fully retractable roof now. It's just, well,
it's an open air stadium.
You know, it's like that. Yeah, it's that convertible top that went down that one last time and won't pop back up. But
it's that old Volkswagen Cabriolet that the top won't go back up on.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's Visa gift cards. If the fans just sent them all Visa gift cards to get them some players on that team, or to help with the stadium, like whatever. Just give them all Visa gift cards and have the Rays spend money. Yeah, just have them go spend money. This was one of my funny ones that I had in here, because I'm just like, I mean, what do you do if you're the Rays right now? And it goes back to what you said. Like, we don't have a home. So, like, what can we say we need to do if we don't have anywhere to go? Like, you know, like it's hard. It's really hard. So I don't know where the Rays go. They're stuck in a really tough position right now. It sucks for them. It's no fault of their own. It's just, it's terrible. I hope it does turn around.
Well, but and John, this is an interesting point, because you're right on one hand and wrong on another, I think, because I think Tampa is actually a good baseball town. The problem is they're in St. Petersburg, and St. Petersburg, getting from Tampa to St. Pete on a Tuesday night at 5:30 for a game is awful. Traffic wise, it's not an easy trip. You got to come around and go across the water. Like, I used to travel to Tampa once a month for work, and I went to a lot of games at the Trop. That traffic and getting there sucks. And honestly, the other thing you're dealing with in Florida, and the Marlins see it too, is that you're competing with the weather. Like, you can go into Tampa and grab dinner at a beachfront place and go hang out on the beach for a little bit at night, or you can go sit in Tropicana Field and watch the Rays play. Like, you're competing against an outdoor based lifestyle at a ballpark that's 45 minutes away, although it's not that far. It's a challenging place to play, and St. Pete is the worst place to put that stadium. I actually think the Rays will draw better at Legends Field in Tampa this summer than they draw at the Trop, because they'll actually be in Tampa.
Yeah. So to go on this comment, is it a football city? Listen, it's a football country. No matter how bad the traffic is, people are going to go to football. To go on your Lightning question, the Lightning Stadium is downtown Tampa. So it's way different, easier to get to. The Lightning are good, which also help. So yeah, I think it's the location. We'll see how they draw in Tampa this year. It'll be interesting to see. And the games will look like they're sold out because they're in a smaller seat stadium. So I don't know.
Because what's interesting with the location of the Yankees spring training complex, it's right down the street from Raymond James Stadium, off Dale Mabry Highway in that section of Tampa. You're off one of the main drags right by Raymond James Stadium, heavily trafficked in Tampa. It's going to cut the drive to St. Petersburg by like at least half for all your locals. I actually think you're going to see fans come out because they don't have to haul over the bridge to St. Pete. And God forbid there's an accident on one of those bridges that's like a foot over the ocean. Things closed. Like you're not getting there. It's wild.
Listen, John, I've been crying for this for the last 5 years, dude. I want them in Raleigh so bad. Raleigh would support that team and go out. Durham Bulls games are nuts, and I love going to the Bulls, but just bring them to Raleigh because Canes fans here are nuts. They're tailgating at 3 p.m. for an 8 o'clock game. That's
hockey
crazy,
in a warm climate, which also seems weird. Forget about baseball.
Yeah, but Canes games, they're awesome. But all right, we'll move on to the New York Yankees, and for me, it's bullpen help. Holmes is gone. You can say what you want about his season last year. You got Weaver, and yes, you traded for Devin Williams. I think you still need 1 or 2 more arms to get to Devin Williams. Because I don't know if I trust Luke Weaver. Listen, his stuff was gross down the stretch there for the Yankees, and he came through when they needed him the most. But I think they need 1 or 2 more arms in there to get them to Devin Williams.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. More bullpen arms, the better. Because you want to make sure you're getting to Devin Williams and not blowing it before then. For me, a big part of that is that they need a competent manager. I still don't trust Aaron Boone to make the decisions inning by inning, game by game. As good a baseball guy as he is, I just don't. I do not trust his decision making or game management. And they're going to have to make this game so good they can win. This team so good they can win in spite of him, and that's going to be hard. Ultimately, the weakness I see on this team is the manager.
I don't disagree. I mean, we've sat here for years calling for his head, and it just seems like it's extension after extension. And it's like, why? His on-field management is horrendous. Got to be worse than me.
I wish they had a ranking for managers, because I feel like it would be awful. I want more wins above replacement for managers.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of piggyback this a little bit. I got to go to the new Yankee Stadium this summer for my 40th birthday, and I was so excited to be at Yankee Stadium. I wish I had gotten to the old Yankee Stadium. Like, I'm kicking myself for not getting there before, because even the fans say the atmosphere was different at the old Yankee Stadium versus the new. But they're playing the Mets. Like, it was a good game, the whole entire game. I saw Severino against Luis Heel. Like, it was a really good game, but it was just flat.
Yeah.
Like, the whole atmosphere was flat. It was easily probably my least favorite to go to out of the 15 that I've been to so far. It was just flat. And maybe that's it. They need facial hair. Captain, you're right. Like, you allow facial hair, it's completely different atmosphere.
Well, and I do think, I think some of the tradition of the Yankees was cool when they were winning. I remember Johnny Damon signing there and shaving his head, and like it was a big deal. Like, I want to be a Yankee. Well, when you were winning, it was cool. Now it's just dumb. And I think you've got a fan base that's kind of become apathetic at this point. Like, you've won 1 World Series in 25 years, and I think that for the most part, the tradition and the swagger and the excitement and the pride is fading, because think about it. Your last World Series win was 2009, right? And last time you won before that was 2000.
Yeah.
You've got a whole generation of Yankees fans right now that have graduated college. They've only ever seen 1 World Series championship.
Which is very unlike.
Right. And 27 rings, keep your rings, because most of those were won before like 1950 when, who cares? But
yeah, baseball wasn't even integrated then.
But at the same time, like, you've got a whole generation of Yankee fan at the ballpark that like doesn't know the Yankees of the 70s, 80s, and 90s that were so dominant and were, the evil empire and all this stuff. Like, they've never seen it. They've seen a team that's largely been mediocre and disappointing.
Yeah, they do need a whole new overhaul, and we've said that. Like, we have complained about Cashman, we've complained about Boone. Honestly, I think this is in Cashman's tenure. This might be the best offseason he's had,
down.
and if not the best, it's near the top. He's actually filled holes that the Yankees have needed, and not with what you say all the time, fantasy baseball players. Not the guys that are going to hit me 40 home runs but strike out 250 times. Like, that doesn't help your Yankees team. And the last 5 or 6 years, that's all they have been, is 40 home run guys and strike out 300 times. You win and lose by the 3-run homer. If the 3-run homer doesn't come, you're not.
Why you've not won any World Series in that time.
That's it.
And most cases, you didn't even sniff it.
Right.
You added Soto this year, who's an on-base machine. It changed that whole lineup. But I will say, I said it last week. I will eat crow on this one. But Brian Cashman has put on a masterclass of an offseason. And he's trying to build a team so good that Aaron Boone can't screw it up. The problem is Boone can still screw it up.
Yeah, he'll find a way. Goodness. All right. Baltimore Orioles. This was a hard one for me because they're so young, they're so upcoming, and we know the owner has money. The owner has Steve Cohen-ish money. I don't think anybody has Steve Cohen money, but he's up there. They need starting pitching. Losing Burns, possibly not coming back. You have Zach Eflin you got on the trade deadline. I'm like, all right, the Orioles are on the right track. Burns is going to go there. He's going to love it there. He'll re-sign in free agency. Zach Eflin's back. You're hopefully getting Kyle Bradish back in that rotation. That was a huge loss for them last year. He went down with Tommy John. You lost Bautista in the back end, but they need more starters. You have young talent. They're gonna keep getting better. I mean, they're already pretty freaking good. I mean, Colton Cowser could have won Rookie of the Year. You have Gunnar Henderson that won it the year before, and he could have been MVP this year. Like, I mean, they have young guys. Losing Santander and 44 homers and 100 RBIs kind of hurts. You got to kind of figure out how are you going to, supplement that subtraction. But I think their biggest need right now is starting pitching 100%.
Yeah, and my wish was the same. They need an ace. They need a Corbin Burns back. They need that one person who will go out there every 5 days, stop any losing streaks, kind of lead that group through tough times, will show up and bulldog their way through things. Corbin Burns was that. And that team was really good this year. But the hard part is the Orioles pitching was fantastic in the playoffs. Their offense didn't show up. You've got to be able to hit. But the scary thing with this team is that, that window is beginning to close before these guys are going to need to be re-signed, and you probably can't keep them all. So you need to go and make that move to bring in that ace, shore up that rotation, and give this young core a couple more shots to make a run before some of these guys start to move on, because you can't re-sign everybody.
No.
I mean, maybe you can. I mean, Rubenstein's loaded. Yeah. He himself's worth $5 billion, and he's just the one main guy of the ownership group. So, money's not necessarily the issue, but at the same time, like, you just can't re-sign everybody.
No, but you also, the other, side of the coin there is these young guys, if they don't win in that time and free agency's coming up and the Orioles aren't making any moves to make themselves better, they're going to want to hit free agency and be like, okay, just get me out of here. Like, I've had enough of this. Like, I want to go somewhere where A, I'm going to get paid, and B, I have a better chance to win. Because again, like, I mean, they hit on draft picks. We've talked about this. They have hit on a ton of draft picks. Their farm system is so deep that they're sending out top of the line prospects to the Marlins, like Carter Norby, other names floating around there. But if I'm a young guy and you're not showing me that you're all in to win now, I'm not gonna sign an extension. I'm going to wait out to my free agency. I'll play my ass off and I'll go get paid on the open market.
And this poor fan base, like, they have the minor league system they've got now and all the prospects they've got now because that fan base suffered through like a decade of just miserable baseball. And the fan base is getting restless. Like, we waited for this. We gave you time to do it. Like, where are the results? It's great to win 100 games in the regular season, but we keep getting knocked out of the first round of the playoffs. Like, what are we doing this for? And this, like I said, the window's closing on this group to do something, and they got to do it now. And to go this offseason, you've lost Burns and Santander, your biggest home run, your one of your bigger power hitters and your ace, and you replace them with Gary Sanchez and Tyler O'Neill. It's kind of hard to sell that to a fan base that you're getting better.
Yeah. In 2023, the playoffs, the first round exit, we're like, okay,
yeah,
we get it. They're young, they're inexperienced. Yep. Like, we completely understand it. This year, we're like, all right, like, they've tasted it. They know what it's like. They're going to be better. And
we thought
they weren't. They scored one run, right, in both games. Yeah. Not going to get it done. Yep. Yeah. And you're not wrong. Regular season, playoffs is a completely different animal. It really is.
Yeah, exactly. So, regular season just gets you into the postseason. The postseason where it happens.
Yep. All right. Go ahead on
Guardians. All right. So there's a lot to like about the Guardians. They need some power. They need somebody who, the loss of Naylor hurts. Santana helps, but that's not a 1-for-1. They need to fill an outfield slot with somebody who can hit some bombs. And maybe it's probably not a Santander. He's probably too expensive. I thought Tyler O'Neill would be a good fit for them, but he's already gone. They got to find some power in that outfield. As good as Quan is, they need somebody who's a home run threat. That team does not score enough runs. And it's because they have to live by the manufactured, multiple hit inning, and those are hard to string together. You need to be able to occasionally lose a ball and score 3 runs in one swing.
Yeah. Money, need a batter too. Yeah. So there with you, Harrison. I just generically said a World Series. I mean, they have the longest drought right now. But I like you said, I think they need some power in there. Bieber's kind of hamstrung them a little bit, I think. Him being hurt as often as he is, like, he's supposed to be your ace. So I don't know. I'm kind of lost on them and where they need to go to get over that hump, because they have been a good team, solid team. And I've been rooting for them the last few years. They've been in the playoffs because
they paced the American League for most of last year. I mean, they're certainly not a bad team, but then you saw them get absolutely exposed in the playoffs because it is hard to score a run with 3 singles, because you got to string 3 singles together, and that's not easy to do. Whereas the Yankees beat them by a double and a home run, or a single and a home run, or just a solo shot. This one run on one swing, and they just weren't responding with that.
Yeah, I'm wondering another year of John Kensey Noel. I mean, we saw the flash of
playoff home run was huge.
Like that. That was one of the most exciting things I've seen in a long time. And then backed up by David Fry. David Fry's young, upcoming. He's freaking good too. But I wonder if Noel is going to come up and provide that power for them.
Maybe.
I mean, he could.
Maybe. But I think they're still going to need to pad that lineup with another bat. And the other thing we didn't mention is, the loss of Jimenez. You got to replace him. That's no small feat either.
Yeah.
But Jose Ramirez is too good to keep getting knocked out in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think Rizzo signs with them since they picked up Carlos Santana. They're not going to put Rizzo there too. They already got an old washed up guy there, so
they don't need another one.
No. So, all right. Kansas City Royals, your Kansas City Royals, Harrison. What do they need?
So I was torn between power and a table setter, and I think ultimately when you look at that lineup with Salvi, Pasquatch, Witt, they need somebody at the top of the order getting on base. They need a table setter. They need that person. We kicked off the show talking about Ricky Henderson. Like, they need that kind of person who's going to get on base, steal some bases, put some pressure on the pitcher, and give guys like Witt, Perez, and Pasquatch people on base to hit with. Too many times, there's too many times where Witt would hit a missile in the gap and be at second base with 2 outs because the people nobody in front of him got on base. Like you need somebody at the top of the order that can get on base, wreak a little havoc, and give these guys opportunities to produce runs.
There is somebody on the trade block that the Royals could deal for. Mr. Luis
That
Arraez.
would be, the hard part is Luis Arraez is not a great on base percentage guy because he doesn't walk at all, but he's a hitting machine. But that would be a huge improvement to what they have.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's at the top of their lineup?
It was kind of a revolving door.
MJ Melendez.
It was they were moving a lot of people through. Miguel Garcia was up there for a little while. They just kind of they've been trying to find that person to get things going.
Yeah. What positions need to be filled for the Royals? Well, second base, right? You had Adam Frazier sitting there for a while. Pasquatch was injured. You still got Renfroe in the outfield. Melendez is
Renfroe's
a nice piece.
Renfroe's a good piece. Salvi's got catcher kind of locked up. Oh, I'm sorry. You've got India at second base. So, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
You got India.
I forgot about him.
You've got Pasquatch. You got Bobby Witt. Third base is probably going to be Garcia again. Michael Massey will mix in. Nick Lofton, good piece off the bench. Then you get to the outfield. It's Renfroe, who I think is consistent guy. Melendez, who's struggled to be that guy. Isbell,
really good against the Red Sox.
Yeah, they need somebody to take the mantle of that table setter role and to be able to do it consistently. Because they've proven they've got the pitching now. They re-signed Waka. You still got Lugo. Bullpen's solid with guys like Urseg kicking around. They're in good shape. They need somebody at the top that's going to get things started.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I said another 30 home run, 100
wouldn't be bad either.
Guy. No, but yeah, because I think 48 home runs. Salvador Perez isn't walking through that door in spring training.
No,
Pasquatch isn't a crazy power hitter. He doesn't scream to me a bona fide cleanup hitter. You know what I'm saying? Like I like him, but I don't think he's quite the level that they need to like drive in Bobby Witt on a consistent basis.
Pasquantino's he'd be like a great number 5 hitter. Doubles in the gap, occasional home runs. Like he's not a 30 and 100 guy necessarily. Could he be? Maybe, but that's just not how he profiles.
Right. So
I'd love to see them grab a Santander or a Teoscar and throw him in that lineup. That would change things a lot too.
Yeah. All right. My wish.
One question. The question can be which position need to be filled. The hard part with a lot of these teams right now is there's not necessarily positions to fill. They've got players that can play, that can fill the hole. It's really a matter of like who's out there that's better that you can go get. Where's the upgrade you can make? Because like the Royals could roll out tomorrow with the roster they've got and win a wild card again. The only problem is like, what could you do to get better so you could actually take that wild card, turn it into a division, and then make a deeper run in the playoffs?
Yeah. All right. My wish list for the White Sox is they'd just be happy with anything under the tree.
Doesn't even matter.
No. Just they'd be happy with a pair of socks underneath the tree at this point. My God, I don't. We've talked about it, since they broke the record. Yeah, Jay, everything they do.
All things
from top down. I'm talking like get rid of the ball boys down the outfield lines. Strip the whole thing down.
Get new hot dog people, new parking attendants, all the way down.
Get every single baseball out of the stadium and just get new ones shipped in. Strip it all down because it is. I don't even know where they go from here. Honestly,
the nice thing is you can't fall off the floor, so it can't get any worse, right? Like you can only go up from here.
But you can lose more than 41 games, though. That's the scary part. Is there still is room to go further down?
You could, in theory, It'd be really hard to lose more than 41, but they're gonna make a run out of this season, I think. So
that's. I'm sorry, Jay.
Man.
That's
nobody deserves that, Jay.
Dude,
our deepest sympathy.
That's a tough draw right there. That is a tough draw. But Oh, hold
Yeah.
on. They do have the 10th pick of the draft. Oh,
Yeah, and that's
okay.
actually
Well,
that's a beautiful segue to what I think they're asking for, which is the best player development staff in history. Like they need to hit on every draft pick, develop every prospect, and they need to accelerate the development to the major leagues. The only way they're going to fix this is to become the best player development organization in baseball history. You need to just find talent and run it to the major leagues.
yeah.
Like the Rays have done. They need to do whatever they were doing and recreate it.
Yeah. Did they get screwed in the lottery? That's a good question. I mean, they got the 10th pick. I would say they got screwed.
You said the worst season in history and got the 10th pick.
Yeah,
I feel like there should be a special consolation for them. The fact like they should automatically get the first pick by having the worst season in history.
Yeah, not great.
Like you get the express lane to the first pick.
Yeah. So kind of breaking news, MLB and umpires agree to new CBA, and the league will likely to move forward with the plans to test out the automated strike system throughout spring training. So umpires agreed. So
okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Good. I mean, we knew that was the only real hurdle left was getting the umpires on board. So there you go.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things the umpires are realizing like we can either be part of the solution or find ourselves on the outside looking in. We better fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Moncada was a huge bust for them. Luis Robert hasn't, panned out to what they thought for sure. And Tony La Russa falling asleep on the bench, also definitely not the best decision. Agree.
Yeah.
This is a great question, John. I don't really know if teams were tanking on purpose that they had to implement a lottery.
Yeah, I don't think tanking was really an issue. I think it was MLB trying to, kind of create some excitement with the draft and mix it up so more teams were in the running for the first pick. And the hard part is, the MLB, the NFL draft, most of those first round players are going right to the NFL. In MLB, most of those first round players are going right to single A ball, and you'll see them in 4 years. You're not going to create excitement for a draft for players you aren't going to see for years, and in most cases, many of them you're never going to see at all.
Right.
I think the intent was to create some excitement and have more teams involved. The reality of it is the fans don't care about the draft, never will. And I think you found a way to, unfortunately, screw teams that really needed the help.
Yeah. Yeah. Young blood. Yeah. We're with you. I think that's the only way that they can somewhat get out of this hole. And it's going to be a painful process. It's going to be a 7, 8, 9, 10 year rebuild before people are going to see the White Sox as a desirable destination or even a reputable destination. Like if my agent comes back and be like, "Hey, the White Sox are no, that's good. I'm all set. I don't even need to hear the number."
Yeah, you had me at White Sox.
Yeah, like I don't. Yeah, and that might be one of the worst contracts they've signed in a while, and might be why they're in the hole they are now. They gave Benintendi way too much money, and he's been an absolute dud.
Disaster.
Yeah.
And I think the question in all this is Reinsdorf still committed to winning? Like, does Reinsdorf, is he going to put the resources behind this thing to fix it or just be like, whatever, I don't care?
I don't know. They need everything, but
yeah, but the wish list is really just
right. All right. Wish list for the Twins, Harrison.
They need new ownership. That ownership group has put the team on the market after a few years of waffling with whether or not they're going to spend money or not. That ownership group is not committed to seeing the TV contract through, seeing the payroll grow. Very conservative, owned it a long time. The Twins need they need a new ownership group that's going to inject some new energy and money into that ball club, because they're doing just enough to survive, and that isn't going to cut it.
Yeah. For me, it's bubble wrap for the entire team.
I mean, totally agree.
I want Byron Buxton to show up in spring training looking like the kid from Christmas Story, completely decked out in bubble wrap that he can't even move. Like, don't, like, legit. And then Royce Lewis, that kid, when he is healthy, that kid is ridiculous. But again, can't stay on the field. Like, if you have a healthy Byron Buxton that we've talked about for years, has potential to be a 40-40 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got the power. Like, when that guy is on and healthy, he hits the baseball just as hard as anybody else in the league. He is ridiculous. But I mean, we saw it, was it the first week of the season 2 years ago, 2023, at Fenway, hits a ball off the wall, and he's like jogging into second base, and boom, just blows out his hammy. And we're just like, yo.
He just casually calls time and walks off the field, and we're like, wait, what?
Like, done for 3 months. Yeah, I mean, the injuries are a huge one. Correa is, he's hurt too now a lot, which is why the Giants dodged a major bullet. Like we said last week or the week before, like, their medical team, the Giants medical team, deserves a medal for saying no to that, because they completely got it right.
They did. I mean, it was sad at the time for the Giants to lose out, but really the Twins have not gotten what they hoped. And interesting point by John, is this a chance for an ownership group to relocate them? Unfortunately, Target Field was built, and the Twins are locked into that place for a long time. So anybody buying the Twins is buying Minnesota, and you're buying into being there for the long term, because you have a very expensive lease on that ballpark that you are not going to get out of. So you are very much married to Minnesota.
And I've heard that ballpark's immaculate too.
I've heard it's unreal, and that is a good fan base. They do show up, and that is a team that has been very competitive. Usually, this year is a bit of a tough one for them, the way they kind of fell apart down the stretch, but they consistently hang around. I just think that fan base is looking for more, kind of like the Vikings. That just seems to be like the Minnesota way. It's like we do enough to hang around, and we're not really trying to win necessarily. Like, we want to be in it, but like, we're not going to like see it all the way through.
Yeah. The Twins to me were like the Astros for a while, not obviously to that extent, but like, it's like, who's going to win the AL Central? Well, it's the Twins, right? And it's the Twins until it's not. There's like the Brewers in the NL Central. It's like, well, I can't keep picking against them because they always win the Central. They just don't get past the first round of the playoffs, right? I mean, you can't go, what was it, like 9 playoff series in a row without winning a game, without actually winning the division. So
you got to get there, right?
Right. So they got there, they just couldn't win. But
they get there a lot. They just don't do anything when they get there, and that fan base is dying for a winner.
Yeah,
because they were phenomenal in the 90s. And they want that back.
Yeah, but I'm wrapping up at least those 3 players in bubble wrap, and that's that. Sorry about it, but all right.
Yeah, Detroit. And the point about the Vikings. Yeah, the Vikings are having a great season. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? Most likely not. They're going to make the playoffs, probably get bumped. Is that a team you fear in the playoffs? I don't know. And honestly, this is the best season they've had in a long, long time. So, but that city is dying for a winner. They just want a winner.
Absolutely.
So bad.
All right. For me, my wish for the Tigers is a bona fide number 2 to back up Tarek Skubal. If that Tigers team could get, I have pocket aces here. If they could get a nice number 2 behind Skubal, I mean, it's nice to have him come out every 5th day and know that he's going to give you 7 innings of dominant baseball, but you don't have anybody behind him. Like, yes, Jackson Job's coming up and he looks promising, made his debut in the playoffs, which is nuts. They did sign Alex Cobb. It's a nice veteran, but he's 38. Like, what is he gonna? He's not a bona fide number 2.
No, and he's a 3-starter at best. Like, he's depth.
I would have thought that the Tigers would have kicked the Tigers on Walker Buehler here. I think Buehler would have been a nice backup to Skubal from the opposite side of Skubal, and if Buehler has a bounce back season, I think he would have fit really well on that team.
Yeah. And they did kick the tires on Buehler. I'm not sure what happened. At one point, it was rumored that he was close to a deal with them, or at least an offer from them. I go back to, pretty sure the Ilitch family is still in full control of that organization. they've spent at times, they've not spent at others. I don't know which way the wind is blowing with that ownership group, if they're going to invest in the team or not. But that's a lot of crazy good young talent, and you gotta add the right veterans to make it work.
Yeah, agree. All right.
So yeah, so for me it's
sorry.
They need that veteran leader that's been there before. That team has zero other than AJ Hinch, who's a great who can offer a lot of that. They've got no playoff and World Series experience on that roster for the most part.
Javi Baez doesn't do it for you?
No, I don't think anybody listens to that guy anymore.
Yeah.
And honestly, my initial reaction was, getting rid of Baez, but you can't get rid of Baez. You're stuck with him.
Yeah.
But I look at a guy like an Alex Bregman, like he would be such a great fit for them. A guy who's been there, done that, a true professional, a guy who will come in every day, show these kids how it's done. The situation's not too big for him. The lights aren't too bright. He's seen it all. And they need somebody. They need somebody that can say, hey, when this happens, you're going to, expect this. These things are going to happen. Be prepared for it. Because this is a super young team that has no experience. And you saw that in the playoffs. Like, they got exposed. They had some moments, but they got exposed. Yeah. They're not ready for prime time yet. Couple of real solid veterans, somebody who's been there before that can show them the way, and that team could be dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Here we go, Jay. I'm going to start off with this one because my wish for the Angels is Rendon and his contract can go right back up the chimney with Santa. I mean, talk about putting an organization in a hole. That contract is massive, and Anthony Rendon does not want to be there. He's pretty much come out and said it. It's like, I don't really want to do this job anymore. Like, I do it because it pays me well.
Like, I love the fact the guy making $35 million comes out and goes, it's just a job. Like, what are you guys so worried about?
I don't want that type of guy on my team. I don't. I'm sorry. Like, I would rather have a guy that comes to work and wants to be there every single day than to pay a guy that much money to be like, yeah, I guess I'll try to hit the ball today.
Even if you don't believe it, like, at least say it. Like, make us think you care. Like, the fans shouldn't care more than you, man. Like, that's wrong.
Yeah, it's not okay for me. So that would be my wish, is sending Rendon's contract right back up the chimney.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that. My wish for the Angels is they need to find a way to save Mike Trout from himself. And I've said this before on the show. They need to find a way to basically load manage Trout. You got to manage him to 120 to 130 games. It's going to be a mix of maybe a game in the outfield, a game at DH, a day off. You have to manage him in order to get the most out of him. You cannot let him go out in the outfield 5 games in a row at 100 miles an hour and then mess up his knee. Like, you have to treat him with kid gloves now, because when he's healthy, the guy hit 40 home runs in 120 games a couple seasons ago. He can do in 120 games what most guys do in a whole, actually what most guys can't do in a full season.
Right.
You just have to get him there.
Yeah.
So it is going to be critical they find a way to balance the time in the outfield with some time at DH and some planned time off to get the most out of him and get the 120 to 130 a season out of him, because that's probably all you're going to get. If you can do that, you will get MVP quality Mike Trout for the rest of that contract. If you continue to just let him run around in center field and hurt himself, you're going to spend year after year going, geez, I wonder what happened. Geez, what if? You've got to manage him. You have to load manage him.
Yeah, well, it came out that he's got that degenerative back disease or disorder or whatever. And like, your back is the core of your body. And if you start like compensating for your back pain, that's when your knees go. That's when your hips go. That's when everything else in your body is thrown off. If your core is damaged or weak in any way, that's when the rest of your body takes a toll. So I'm with you 1,000%. Like, they have to load manage him if they want to even remotely get a full season out of him.
Yeah, and honestly, there's no shame in having Mike Trout DH 60 games a year.
No.
Like, find some young guys of speed, plug them in the outfield, let Trout just hit. Like, you need to keep him in the lineup. And if that means he's got to DH a lot more often, then let him DH.
Yeah.
But having him run ragged in the outfield and destroy himself is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right. Texas Rangers. Go ahead, Harrison.
Yeah. My wish for the Rangers is they need real bullpen depth. Like, not just some guys. Like, they need competent bullpen pitchers.
Yeah.
They last year was a disaster for them. Even if they had a lead, they couldn't keep it. We knew they were going to have a tough time with all the starting pitcher injuries. They had to wait till they came back, but they couldn't hold a lead to save their life. So for me, it's they need to go and invest in some real good, solid bullpen arms, and not try to just hold it together with some guys that can throw a baseball. Like, find some real pitchers and put them in that bullpen.
Yep. For me, it's 150 team doctors that they need underneath the tree because, you just said it and I'll say it again. Like, their whole pitching staff was hurt last year. And we're like, if the Rangers can tread water till July when they get back, then, maybe the Rangers will have a shot at the playoffs. Well, those pitchers never came back in July. Then they never came back in August. And then DeGrom finally comes back for 3 starts at the end of the year. Like, just too many injuries in that starting rotation. I think Simeon actually missed some time for the first time in years because he was like a 162 game player for a while there. Seager gets hurt every once in a while. They need to stay healthy. But
yeah, agreed. They need the guys to stay healthy, and they need some real solid arms in the bullpen, and that's a scary team.
Yep.
And Jay missed the Angels. He was away.
What are
we
you
just
doing,
did the
dude?
Angels day. We had y'all prep for it. Oh man.
No, you'll have to go back and watch it. We did. Oh man.
I think you'll really appreciate Knicks.
Brutal. All right, Astros.
Yeah.
New name of the ballpark. This is terrible. Daikin Park. Dude, I'd rather have Enron Field, and we all know about that. But I mean, bring me back Minute Maid. What is this? Daikin Park? Get off this. That's brutal.
That's a terrible name. And that's going to have so many like just horrendous nicknames, and it's bad. It's bad. Yeah, so the name is bad. And my wish for the Astros, you just traded Kyle Tucker. You need to find a new Kyle Tucker. Those are not players that come up every day. And you just traded them for what seemed like not a big haul of prospects. So you need to go find another Kyle Tucker. You just can't.
Yeah. Yep. Astros need to erase their history. So yeah, maybe some erasers underneath there. They need to start cheating again. Oh man.
I mean, at least have the company that makes a trash can sponsor you, not the company making HVAC equipment, but whatever.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to you, Jay. Thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I appreciate it.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what direction the Astros are heading at this point, right? Because I mean, it's like, all right, we'll trade away Kyle Tucker. So we're like, okay, they're in sell mode. They're not going to go after Bregman. And then all of a sudden they sign Christian Walker, and we're like, what?
Yeah,
wait, what is? And then we're like, well, Framber Valdez is on the trade blocks. Okay, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, where are we going here?
What's the plan here? Like, you just have a guy being like, yeah, we're gonna sell. Ooh, but I like him. Let's put him on our team. Okay, we're gonna sell. No, I like him. Let's sign. Like, I don't know where they're going. And I said it on Friday. I'm like, the AL West is wide open to me. I think all 5 teams at this moment could bang on the HVAC now. And that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
They're going to put a couple of the units in the dugout and bang on those.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. But yeah, I think the AL West is wide open. And at this point in time, I think this might be crazy, but I think any 5 of those teams could win. Like, every team has a glaring hole. Texas, health. Astros, no clue. Mariners can't hit. Don't know about the Angels. Don't know about the A's. Like, there's so many question marks in that division that I think the Astros are just going to kind of tread water till the deadline, see where they're at, and then either sell or buy. They're either going to be all in or they're going to be all out.
Yeah,
and that's my thought on them.
Yeah, and I don't see the Astros as having gotten better this offseason. No. You've lost Bregman. You've lost Tucker. You've added Christian Walker and Isak Paredes. you've got a bunch of pitchers you hope come back. I don't. You still don't have a center fielder. It's weird. Like they're completely lost, and they're like in this in between phase of trying to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could say every team needs starters and relievers. You can never have enough pitching now, especially with the way that starters go, right? 5 innings, and then it's 4 guys out of the bullpen every game. So, yeah, but I mean,
look at the Dodgers. I mean, look at the Dodgers last year. Like even with all the starters they had, they still had to pitch bullpen games in the playoffs because they didn't have enough starters.
Yeah,
like you can never have enough.
Yeah, crazy. All right, Oakland Athletics. How about you, Harrison?
I mean, the Athletics need all the pitching, like every arm they can find, starter, reliever. I mean, other than closer, I think that they need literally all the pitching. But I think more importantly, the A's need a plan for the future. And they heard it. They were very deep on Max Fried, and Fried's response was, "I don't want to go play at a minor league ballpark." And like, I'm not even sure what you guys are doing. If the A's can't kind of show people what they're doing and kind of cast a vision for the future and a plan for where they're going to be, free agents aren't going to want to be there, and young players aren't going to want to stick around. Like you mentioned, Rooker's extension. Like, is Rooker even going to want to sign it, or is he going to look around and go, "I don't want to be here"?
Yeah.
Like the A's need all the pitching to improve the team, but they also need to figure out what the hell they're doing. So that players know what they're signing up for.
Yeah, I think the reason I put Rooker extension here is because I think he is such a great player, up and coming. He's only going to get better. I think if the A's are smart and they play it right, they'd be like, hey, like we want you to be the centerpiece when we get to Vegas. Yeah. Like we want you to be the Athletics centerpiece here. Because, if you look at when they're supposed to get to Vegas, and you look at his career trajectory, like he could be at the peak by the time they get to Vegas, and this guy could be a perennial all-star at that point.
Yep, agreed.
I think it's important, and that also shows other players in the league that, hey, like we are going to commit to our guys, and this is the start of that. Like if you can sign Rooker to this extension, it shows everybody else that, okay, the A's aren't playing whatever game they were playing in Oakland anymore. Like these guys want to win and they want to build a contender. So that's why I chose Rooker's extension there.
Yeah. And I think you're right. They need to plant a flag and say, this is the franchise player. This is the cornerstone piece we're going to build around, because they haven't had that. Guys have come up. They've been there for 3 or 4 years. They're gone. 3 or 4 years. They're gone. They trade them with a year or two left of eligibility, or I guess control, and move on. And they need to show that they're gonna break that cycle, because you need to be able to develop and keep young guys like Rooker and Butler. You can't just dump those guys and just keep producing them. It's hard, and nobody's going to sign there if it's a revolving door of talent.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's hard, but the A's have been doing it for the last 20 years, like bringing up a ton of talent and sending it out. I mean, it can't be that hard.
I know, right? I mean, just whatever they've been doing, the White Sox need to figure out.
Oh, we have the best 3 starting pitchers in baseball in Zito, Hudson, and Mulder. We'll trade them. That's fine.
And didn't win with all that talent. Like, my God.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, they were kind of like the Twins there for a while. They would make the playoffs and then lose in the first round.
Yep.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah. Continuing talking about Portland. We actually talked about Portland about a month ago on the show, because they've got a new treasurer. That actually has a background in financing. They're already putting together a bond package in hopes of luring a team to Portland, because they tried to pull the Expos to Portland and lost. They ended up in Washington, but Portland's gearing up right now to make another run at either attracting a team or trying to become part of the expansion consideration.
Yeah, and Manfred came out and said, like, he wants, before he leaves in 29, he wants 2 new teams in there. But like I said a couple weeks ago, you have to fix these 2 stadium issues before, possibly 3 with the Diamondbacks. Yep. The 2 stadium issues, especially with the Rays and the A's, before you can even start talking about expansion. Like, as an average fan, like, listen, like, we don't have reporter credentials. We're just 2 fans that are on this show talking about baseball every week because we love it, right? But as a fan, if I'm like, you're bringing 2 new teams into this league, and you have 2 teams that don't even have a home stadium right now, why are you trying to expand? Like, you can't even manage what you have right now.
You got 2 homeless teams. You want to add more?
Yeah, I just it's kind of weird, but we will get into expansion more because there's a lot of cities that I would love to see a team in. Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, other than Raleigh, Homer.
No, Raleigh's number 1 on my list, obviously. But I mean, there's a lot of great cities that I think a team would do really well in. So
yeah,
it will be interesting to see what happens. But
well, and I think Portland, I think to this point, I think Portland will be in consideration. Will they get a team? I don't know, but like they fill a nice hole. Like the Mariners, like way up in the Pacific Northwest, all by themselves.
Yeah,
like there is nobody anywhere near them. They are a multiple hour flight from anybody. I think the shortest flight they've got is down into like the LA area, which is a little over an hour.
Yeah, or maybe even Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have anybody that's that close.
No,
plopping a team in Portland, Oregon would help to fill out some of that gap and help the travel. But there's, like you said, there's a lot of good markets that need to get some consideration and will. And maybe there's some markets that baseball is currently in they shouldn't be in anymore. And I think that's got to be part of the evaluation too.
Yep. And I think Salt Lake City kind of does that too. Kind of breaks up the middle of the plains there. So I don't know. We'll see where it happens.
Yeah, a lot more to come on that.
Yeah. All right. Seattle Mariners. I am asking for bigger barreled bats. So give me those big plastic wiffle ball bats with a bigger barrel.
Bomb bats were awesome.
This stat blew my mind when I was looking at it. After J-Rod hitting 273, the next highest batting average on the Seattle Mariners was Randy Arozarena at 231. And he came over halfway through the year. That's horrendous. I mean, like, I can't even, like, I know batting average is down as a whole across the league, but this is really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even wrap my mind around how atrocious this is. Like, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this level bad.
Yeah, I mean, Cal Raleigh 220, Rojas 225, Polanco 213, JP Crawford 202.
Yeah.
Like, you go down the list and you're like, oh my goodness, it's terrible. Mitch Garver at $172. Justin Turner was there for 48 games. He at 264.
Yeah, the 777, dude. I had the 777, dude. I raked with that thing. I loved it.
Oh, the 777.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me one of the good old Copperheads or an Omaha, and let's see. Let's go.
Yeah, you got that Omaha gold flashing around back there.
I do. It's over here. It'll be up in the bat rack here shortly.
Yeah.
The offense is atrocious.
Yeah.
My wish for the Mariners is they need to go fix the corner infield positions and put some power there. You need a Pete Alonso at first base. You need to go find, you need to get a third baseman like a Nolan Arenado or whoever might be available. You need to go and put some power in the positions that they should, because when you look at that lineup construction, you got contact guys playing power positions and strikeout guys in contact. Like, the lineup makes no sense. It's just like the Seattle Mariners lineup is like the island of misfit toys. Nothing fits. None of it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's the struggle. You've got a third baseman that can't hit. You got a first baseman with no power. That makes no sense. Those are power positions. Like, you need to build a roster and a lineup in the way that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, when they didn't re-sign Teoscar and then they traded away Suarez, I was like, okay. I get it. Those guys strike out 200 plus times a year. Maybe getting those out of the lineup will help them. Well, they were the only two that were providing offense for you last year. So, yeah. I mean, and Suarez went to the Diamondbacks and raked. And then
you traded Suarez, and that created a huge hole.
Yeah.
And you thought you were getting better by dumping all the strikeouts, in which all you did was take all the thump out of the middle of the lineup.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if they strike out 200 times, you're at least getting a 3-run bomb, every other game. And when you have George Kirby, Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo on the hill, they're not giving up 3 runs a game.
A 3-run bomb probably wins the game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a completely different team.
John, you remember the Copperheads? Those bats were hot.
Yeah,
that was like the back in the days, the single wall DeMarini Monstros,
and they were the 2 3/4 barrels, right? Like they were the big fat ones.
They were the drop 7s with the big fat barrels. Oh yeah, those things were hot.
That was crazy. Drop 7. That's cheating, dude. That was absolutely nuts.
I know. Then they took that away from us.
Yeah. All right. Braves for you, sir.
They need a better strength and conditioning program. I've never seen guys go down with so many muscle and muscle tendon issues. I'm not sure how these guys are working out or how they're building up their bodies, but it ain't working. You got to stop whatever you're doing and find a better way to build these guys up so that they don't get hurt, because too many guys are falling to injuries that really are, I wouldn't say preventable, but you can do a lot to make those injuries harder to come by. But when you lose multiple guys in the season to tendon and ligament problems, like that's a strength and conditioning program. Something you're doing ain't working.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, along the same lines, I said instant healing lotion, because Braves are a completely different team. I mean, they still somehow get to the playoffs.
I know.
Like limping in, like literally limping into the playoffs.
Chris Sale, if not for hitting on that Chris Sale trade, their season was over.
Oh yeah. But man, and it's so hard because that core of the Braves is fun to watch when they're all healthy. Like they are fun.
Literally. We couldn't agree more. That team healthy should be a World Series favorite every year. They're so good top to bottom.
Yep.
But then when 3 or 4 guys go down to injury, you're like, well, what the hell now?
So this is where locking them up might hurt the Braves. If these guys are perennially hurt, and look, this is Acuna's second ACL tear. So now are we starting to look at, like, is he injury prone?
Right.
I mean, yeah, he put up 40 and 70, which is a ridiculous year.
Yep.
But then he's out the next one with an ACL tear. So,
and ACLs like that, there are ways to stretch that and build that in a way where it's harder to tear it. And he didn't even tear it like in some freak situation. Like he was just running.
Yeah, he was going back to second base, I think is what it was.
Yeah, like it wasn't like he had like some crazy, like he, went to pivot and his knee buckled. Like he was just running, like straight ahead motion. Nothing that should cause an ACL to tear.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to watch for any Braves fan. And even as a baseball fan, I wouldn't say I'm a casual baseball fan because I watch every game, but like it's hard to watch such a good core of baseball players that are fun and exciting to watch, just not on the field because they can't stay healthy.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah. All right. New York Mets. Kind of flashback to the Baltimore Orioles here. They're kind of doing the same thing.
They're in the same spot.
Starting pitcher and an ace.
Yep. Because
the starting pitching that they signed is not going to do it. I don't think it's gonna do it for them. That NL East is a gauntlet. The whole National League is a gauntlet. I know it's the balanced schedule now, but I think the Mets starting pitching gets absolutely shelled this year. I could be wrong. Baseball's funny in that way.
Sure is.
But I don't see it. Like, yes, Juan Soto obviously is an absolute win for the New York Mets, but I think that might be the only thing they're winning this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Mets team that right now is third place in the NL East and fighting for a wild card. And I don't think they're like a shoo-in for a wild card. That Phillies rotation, way better than the Mets. Braves, way better than the Mets. Juan Soto alone doesn't get it done. Same thing I said with the Orioles. They need an ace. They need that one guy at the top of the rotation that's going to shut it down. I really thought when Cohen grabbed Soto, he would go get Burns too and just say, we're going all in, put all the chips on the table. And they've come back with Griffin Canning, Clay Holmes, and Sean Manaea.
Frankie Montas.
Yeah. Anyways, and you've come back with a bunch of serviceable dudes.
Yeah.
You're still lacking a frontline starter. And you were last year too, but you got away with it. But you also saw where that gets you. Yeah. So but I would say you were deeper last year. Your rotation was deeper than you are right now. So they very badly need plenty of starting pitching, but they really need that top end guy that's going to lead the way. They don't have it.
Yeah, 1,000% agree.
Who's going to go win game 1 for you consistently? You don't have them.
No. All right. Philadelphia Phillies. My wish for the Phillies is a get past any playoff series for free card. Every year there's a series that just takes them out, and most of the time they're in control, and then they just can't cap it off. They just fold. I mean, they had the Diamondbacks on the ropes, and Diamondbacks go to Philly and win 2. Boom, they're out. This year, had the Mets come back. Boom, out.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. No, the red. I love all the hype for Red October this year, and it was really short.
Yeah.
And I do think that the Phillies, they need to find a trade partner for Alec Boehm. This Alec Boehm thing is becoming a distraction. There's not a lot of information about why he's all of a sudden in the doghouse. Clearly, there's a problem there. You need to just find a way to move him because everybody's talking about it. It's not going away. You've got to make the move and figure this thing out. You can't keep talking about this with a team that's that good, with that kind of a chance to go and make some serious noise. You can't continue to talk about a guy you can't get rid of that you want to get rid of.
Yeah, and there were rumors that him and Castellanos were gonna go to Houston for Tucker, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, that's gonna be nuts if he goes to Philly. And Astros were like, no thanks. I don't know. There's something weird floating around with Alec Boehm. I don't know what it is. I haven't heard the full story.
There's nothing out there. Like, he went from like
all-star last year,
golden child, to just like, we hate him, get him out of here. And I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm lost. So if there's any Phillies fans in here that can enlighten us on what happened in the Alec Boehm situation, definitely let us know. But yeah, because he was in the playoffs playing, and all of a sudden, like, he just wasn't in the lineup anymore, and we're like, what is going on? Like, I had heard it was something in the clubhouse, not necessarily like off the field, but I don't know this. I don't know the whole story, so that's just me kind of spitballing. But
and then the Phillies came in a couple days ago saying maybe we won't trade him. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, we're talking to the Mariners and somebody else about him. It's like they got to figure it out. Like, you can't keep talking about this guy. Either move him or don't. But making it seem like it's a big deal.
Well, and at this point, you have to trade him. Like, his name's been floated around so much. He's sitting at home being like, dude, like, just send me somewhere at this point. Like, you clearly don't want me. Just send me somewhere. So
yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah. And if the Phillies really hate him, they'll send him to the White Sox. Anyways, moving on to the Miami Marlins.
Who?
The Miami Marlins.
Yeah. So kind of like the White Sox, they need great player development. I will say what the Marlins have done that the White Sox need to do is stockpiled prospects. They won the trade deadline that last year with all the prospects they brought in. Now they need a player development program to actually get those players, ready for the major leagues and up to the major leagues. If they do it this right, in 2 or 3 years, that's a really good ball club. If they don't, then it's just going to continue to drag on as a team that just exists. But they have to figure out how to harness all those prospects they now have throughout that minor league system.
Yeah. For me, I guess it's kind of on the same wavelength a little bit, but a front office that wants to win.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, Schumacher wins manager of the year. He gets the Marlins to the playoffs, which was nuts. Playoffs?
Shocking.
Like, crazy. And then the Marlins are like, well, let's just ship everybody out. And Schumacher's like, okay, well, I'm good with that. They clearly don't want to win. That's why Jeter left. He kind of saw the writing on the wall, and he's like, nope, I don't want to be a part of this either. So I just, I want the Marlins to have a front office that cares about winning. Like,
agreed.
I didn't even mind the Marlins when, they win in 97, they buy the World Series, and then they sell everybody. And then 6 years later, they buy everybody and then sell everybody. Like, at least they were trying to win. Like, they had a plan. They knew what they were doing. They're like, hey, we spend all our money here. We win here. We sell, we buy, we win. We sell, we buy, we win. Like, it was working for them. And then now all of a sudden they're just like, well, now we're good. Let's just bring up the farm, And that's that, not spend. I mean, I said it on Friday. Like, that team they had was Stanton, Yelich, Real Muto, I mean, the Jose Fernandez loss set that organization back years. That
Yeah.
I mean, losing a Cy Young caliber pitcher was such a huge blow to that organization. I don't think they've even recovered from that, to be completely honest. But they had some talent on those teams, and they just didn't do anything with it. But
Yeah, it's tough. You know, it seems like every time they've been able to like dangle some talent and not been able to fill out around it. It just seems like they've never been able to put all the pieces together at once. They've tried, but again, like, it's an ownership group that's not going to spend much money. It's a front office that's trying to get very creative. They're trying to be a baseball factor like the Rays were, and that only works if you have that consistent flow. And when you get a break in the action, and you don't have players ready to step up, you run into these ruts where you've got a team that's just not good.
Yeah,
but they've got to go back to getting the player development right, so they've got that consistent pipeline of guys that are ready to come to the next level.
Yeah, agree. All right, wish list for the Nationals. I just think they're crazy young right now. I mean, so I just said veteran players. I got Yaz and Brooks Robinson here. I mean, model of veteran players, stayed with the same team for their entire careers, the two longest single tenured players ever. But I think that's what they need. They need veteran players that have been there before, know how to shape these young guys. And the Nationals have some talent on that team. I think they just need a couple pieces to make them better. And they're trending in the right direction.
Totally. And I think they've got I think they've got a solid manager who's
Davey Martinez.
Yeah, who's here for kind of this rebuild. And, you know, other than crawling around on all fours, is pretty level-headed. And that'll help. But I'm with you. I said they need veteran power hitters. They need some guys in that lineup that can produce some runs, drive in some runs, make some noise, but also show these kids the way, because they are very young. They are very talented. For a while there, in August, they were the last wildcard team.
Yeah.
And then they faded down the stretch. I think a lot of that had to do with the distractions of CJ Abrams, but also, like, this is a team that is not. They're not ready. They're not ready to be they were trying to get there early and they weren't ready. Bring them a couple of veteran power hitters, help stabilize that lineup, create a little noise, help them score some runs, and this team might surprise you.
Yeah.
They're not that far off.
No. All right, the Cubbies. I just said that Christmas came early for the Cubs getting Kyle Tucker.
Yep. Done.
Yeah.
And my wish is, now that you've got him, you need to extend him, because Tucker is a franchise player, and he's the kind of guy, not Bellinger. He's the kind of guy you give the big fat contract to and lock him up for as long as you can, because there's not many players that do what he does.
No, absolutely. I mean, the Cubs still need some other pieces for sure, but I mean, like you said, I mean, the way this guy produces in the field and in the box, you can't go wrong with him. You got to find a way to keep him. And when he was first traded, the rumors were like, I'm not looking to sign an extension because I want to go to free agency.
Yep.
And now he's kind of opened that back up. So there is room for the Cubs to kind of sneak in there and say, hey, let's work something out here. Because it sounds like he's excited to be in Chicago, which I mean, I would be too. Like, the Cubs are a historic organization. Like,
and that fan base is nuts. They are nuts for that team.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be weird to see Kyle Tucker in a Cubs uni, but I'm here for it. I can't wait to see what he does in Chicago.
Yeah. He is a franchise player. He changes that lineup. That rotation is solid. He helps the lineup. Do they need some more pieces? Yeah, they need to fill in a couple more spots, but I think that is a better team right now than they were last year, and they're a serious NL Central contender. And I think you need to make the decision that Kyle Tucker's the guy you're going to build around and get him signed up, and then start building.
Now, the Cubs are on the short list for Corbin Burnes here too. And
Yeah.
you kind of called this at the beginning was Corbin Burnes and the Craig Counsell connection
Yep.
could be enough to lure Burnes to Chicago. Then you put Burnes with Imanaga and Steele. Like, you're looking at a top three that are pretty dang good, and that NL Central that is not so good. So
yeah, I mean, the Brewers for like what, the third year in a row have gotten worse in the offseason. They can only do this for so long. I feel like the Cubs are, you know, they're a move away from being the favorite and running that division.
yeah. But we kind of talked about it a little bit. Does it put them far in the playoffs? I don't know.
I mean, that NL is a freaking gauntlet. The Dodgers, the Padres, the Phillies, the Braves. I mean, there's no freaking rest. There's no break for with all those teams. You know, then you get the Mets hanging around the edge, the Cubs hanging around the edge, the Brewers hanging around on the edge. Diamondbacks hanging around on the edge.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, John. I think he is going to put up some serious numbers in Chicago.
I think people are going to look up at the end of this coming season and realize that Kyle Tucker really is better than Juan Soto and be surprised that they forgot about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Central's there for the take, and I agree. Yep. I think that the two most wide open divisions right now are the AL West and NL Central.
Agreed.
I mean, a lot can change between now and opening day because there's still, 200 free agents that still haven't signed or something crazy like that.
So many.
So, I mean, we'll see what goes on with them, but
yep.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the Cubs a lot this year. I'm with you. I'm going to be honest. I only tuned into them a few times. You know, I was, watched on opening day when Justin Steele popped that hamstring, and I was like, God dang, man. Like, I wanted to see this guy.
That was a tough one.
Dominate. I tuned in for a lot of Imanaga starts. Yep. I mean, he was fun to watch. Cubs are going to be fun. I can't wait to see them.
We'll be doing some watch parties for some games, and I suspect the Cubs are going to be on that list several times.
Yes, absolutely. All right. The Cincinnati Redlegs. I'm going to go with starting pitching health here. They have a lot of young arms, just haven't been able to stay on the field. You have Abbott, you have Green, Lodolo. You have some promising arms in that rotation. Just can't make enough starts. So that is my wish for the Cincinnati Reds going forward. And bring Joey Votto back, 1-year deal.
Yeah, I don't make him the third base coach. I don't care. He just needs to be there somewhere. All right, my wish for the Reds is they need the Tom Amansky video series. I've never seen a team, and I get that they're young. I've never seen a team play defense so poorly everywhere. I mean, they like, kids, shield your eyes when the Reds are on defense. They're horrendous. They're very raw. They're very, very inconsistent. They are wildly talented, but boy, are they learning on the fly because they are painful to watch. Ellie De La Cruz he's a nightly show, but he's just as likely to hit a missile into the bleachers as he is to boot a routine ground ball. I would not be excited to be pitching for that team. I'd be afraid that they aren't going to catch the ball. And I think that's going to be Terry Francona's biggest challenge, is to get these kids, because that's what they all are, back to basics, back to the fundamentals, field and throw, catch and throw. Because they're awful. They are just wretched to watch in the field, but damn, are they exciting.
I think a big loss for them early was Matt McClain. Like, he was another up and coming, like, star that was making an impact right away, and then lost him for the year, like, early. Yeah, that one hurt a lot. You have a lot of young guys there for sure. Yeah,
and India's gone now, and he was really steady.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I bring it up all the time, but I remember watching a Diamondbacks game, I think 2 years ago, and 8 out of the 9 starters were rookies, and I'm like, holy smokes, this is nuts.
Yeah, they are so young and so raw and very much learning on the fly. But I mean, to watch them kick the ball around the field is just they lost so many games. I mean, they were a wild card contender for a lot of the season too, kind of on the edge, a couple games away.
Yep.
And then they'd get on these losing streaks and they're just booting the ball around and throwing games away. And that's what a young team does. But they are bad everywhere. and that's going to be Francona's biggest challenge. He needs to go find, where's Ron Washington? Unfortunately, he's stuck with the Anaheim Angels, but you need that kind of guy on your staff that's going to get these guys to be competent in the field.
Yeah, agree. All right, the Pittsburgh Pirates. For me here, this was mind-blowing again, kind of like the Mariners. A set of weights. Not a single player hit over 25 home runs last year for them.
Which is amazing considering the talent on that in that lineup every day.
Yeah. Not a single player over 25 home runs in 2024. Blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, they need to find Brian Hayes. I don't know where he's gone. I'm not sure where he's at. Like you put here, like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Like they need to send some folks out to find Brian Hayes. That dude there was so much promise, so much hype, so much talent, and yet the production sucks. I mean, and defensively, one of the best, but
if not the best right now.
But offensively, what the hell happened? He's gotten worse the last couple of years. He gets worse every year. Like where they need to put, like, he should be on milk cartons, and there should be wanted posters. Like they need to go find this guy because he was the future of that franchise, and he has been horrendous the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, he is ridiculous with the glove. Unreal. I mean, there's no denying that.
So consistent.
But yeah, he's lost at the plate. Like he has a better chance of going up and just not swinging on 4 pitches and hope for a walk because, yeah, it's not pretty. And you're right. The whole franchise is a mess. I think
the Tellez situation was that's just terrible. I don't know how they sleep at night.
We were so ripped when that came out. Like, how can you do that to a guy that has played almost the entire season and you cut him 4 at-bats before you were going to pay out his bonus? Like, just flat out, like, hey, don't show up for work tomorrow. Like, you're fired. Like, I'm surprised the MLBPA didn't step in there. Because that's screaming to me like they know they have to pay out the bonus that's in the contract, and they're like, well, we don't want to pay it, so bye. Like, how does the MLBPA not protect Rowdy Tellez in that situation?
I don't know. And the owner, Bob Nutting, has a history of doing stuff like this, not paying out incentives, ordering the team to bench players who are coming up on incentive earnouts. Like this organization has a history of stupid stuff like this, and it's why free agents don't want to go there. It's why they have a tough time retaining their own players. Like they don't treat them well. They don't treat the players great. They don't pay them well. They don't treat them well. They don't honor their word. They don't honor their contracts. I don't know how the Players Association did not turn that into something, and maybe they did, and it got settled behind the scenes. We'll never know. But that one's horrific. And they cut Tellez for Pat Scheid. They cut somebody else like a week later. They traded for. I can't remember who. For the same reason, they didn't want to pay out an incentive. It was IKF. Oh, that's right. Kind of Falefa. That's right. They cut him for the same reason. They didn't want to have to pay out an incentive. It just
Rowdy Tellez's was a $200,000 bonus for reaching 425 plate appearances. He reached 421, and they said thanks, but don't come back tomorrow. Bye. With like a week left. I mean, I get that they're not, a higher paying organization, and they got to save money where they save money. But even for the Pittsburgh Pirates, $200,000 is like finding a dime in your couch. Like the dude's got a week left. Like, I mean, come on now.
If you don't want to pay,
don't put it in the contract.
I was going to say exactly that. If you don't want to pay out incentives, don't put them in the damn contract. But you don't sign a contract with a player that has incentives in it, and then when they get close to him, say, "Oh, you're out. I don't want to pay it." I mean,
seriously, dude.
You if you haven't seen that show, go back and find it the week they cut him, because we lost it for a little while about that. But he has a history of this, and that's why players don't want to go there. They don't want to sign there.
Yeah.
They don't want to stay there because Bob Nutting is very much a transactional owner and he does what is in his best interest. He doesn't care if they win. He's just trying to make some money.
It's an absolute crime. I mean, I'm sitting here defending guys that make millions of dollars a year, but I mean, who am I? But still, like that's just the moral of it is terrible. So wrong. It's unreal. But all right, staying in the Central here. The Cardinals. What is this this organization? I don't know where this organization is going.
Yeah, and I honestly, this is John Mozeliak's last year. He's going to hand the reins to Chaim Bloom next year. I think honestly, what they do is they just stockpile prospects, give them to Chaim Bloom so he can rebuild, call it a day. Mozeliak is done at the end of this season. Bloom is stepping in. They're already working through the transition. I think it's time to just blow it up, give Chaim Bloom the keys to a loaded minor league system and a roster you can start over with and let him rebuild. Because you don't have what you need. You just don't. And, moving Arenado too, I think makes sense. Move along from him, save the money, get the prospects, focus on the minor leaguers, focus on the young players you do have. And then let Chaim Bloom work his magic on the minor league system and go a different direction. It's time.
Yeah, I mean, they have nice pieces. You got Mason Wynn, who's coming up as shortstop. He is
so good,
legit too. That kid's faster than a bolt of lightning. Really good at the plate. I feel like he was really their only bright spot for them last year. Like their starting pitching isn't great. No, I mean, you got Sonny Gray, Miles Mikolas. I mean, you have serviceable arms, but they're not top of the line.
Yeah, you've got enough to compete. That's all you got.
Right. Jordan Walker came up. He was supposed to be the next big thing, like started his career with a 12-game, 13-game hitting streak, something like that, and then forgot his bat at home one day, and that was it. That. Kind of a flash in the pan. Maybe he comes back next year. I don't know. But like we said, like the Cardinals had a short window with Arenado and Goldschmidt when they were both putting up 30, 35, and 100 seasons, and they just didn't quite get the right pieces in there at the time to get them where they needed to go. So for me, they're kind of middle of the road here too. Like, are they in sell mode? Are they going to do what you just said, like just build within? And I think with Bloom, that's the way they're going to go, because look at Chaim Bloom with the Rays, look at Chaim Bloom with the Sox, right? I mean, the reason the Sox could make the moves that they did this year was not because of Craig Breslow. It was because all of Chaim Bloom.
I mean, everybody Breslow traded was either drafted or brought in by Bloom. That minor league system is full because Chaim Bloom filled it.
Yeah. So if that's the way that your organization is going, Chaim Bloom is a no-brainer hire.
Yeah, you want to talk about player development? That is the guy that understands player development.
Yeah.
Draft, trade, sign, develop. That's what he does.
Yeah. And it's it's frustrating. If you're a Cardinals fan, strap in, because it's frustrating. As a Red Sox fan, we're like, this is a big market team. Why aren't we spending? The next year, why aren't we spending? Next year, why aren't we spending? And we're now starting to reap some of the benefits from it. Like, we have the talent that he developed. We got Duran, we got Cassis,
Duran, Abreu, Cassis,
Rafaela, like Bayo. And then we could trade some for Garrett Crochet. So like, you will reap the benefits, but it is a 4 to 5, 6 years of frustrating to watch.
It's
baseball.
a process.
So strap in, Cardinals fans. But I mean, you still have some fun guys to watch. Don't get me wrong.
It may be faster because he's not starting from nothing. When he came to Boston, that was after Dombrowski had emptied the minor league system with all those trades and signings to win the World Series in 2018. When Chaim Bloom showed up, the minor league system was empty, and it was a complete restart.
Yeah. All right, on to the Brewers. So, I mean, we're kind of pretty similar here too.
Yeah, you need a health. Brandon Woodruff is due back this year. You didn't have him last year. You lost Corbin Burns. You were okay. Woodruff is your ace. You need Woodruff healthy. He is your ace. Clearly, he is super talented when he's healthy. And to stay relevant, they're going to need, the loss of Adames started to overcome. You're going to need your pitching to be top notch.
Yeah, I mean, I have health is the same as you. Like it's Christian Yelich for me. When this guy is healthy, he's one of the best hitters in the league. I mean, he won an MVP in was it 18? I think it was. He had like 3 cycles that year. I mean, it was insane.
Can do it all.
All-star, can do a Gold Glove, but I think his is a back too, if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
He's got some stuff going on.
So, I mean, injury is a big part of his downfall. If he's healthy, he'll produce. But I mean, he's a career 287 hitter, and that's over 12 years. I mean, you get a healthy Yelich in there, and it's a different story.
It's his back. It was back surgery last year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's healthy Christian Yelich, and definitely what you said, a Woodruff too, because losing their starting pitching, he needs to be there. I mean, they did get Nestor Cortez. Good for them.
Yeah, and John, I agree with your point about the Cardinals. That is usually a very well-run organization. There's always a plan. It doesn't always look pretty, but they figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Down the home stretch here, Harrison, in the NL West. Go ahead with the
Dodgers. They have to avoid the World Series hangover. I think that you had a lot of guys who played a lot of games. You had a lot of guys who had a lot of big moments. You had guys playing through injuries like Freddie Freeman. You have to be able to, enjoy what you did, put it aside, and get ready for the next season and avoid that hangover that comes with being the defending champion. Every time you come to town, everybody wants to beat your brains in. Fans are going to be all over you. Media is all over you. All the extra attention you get, you get treated differently. And you've also played a much longer season, playing all the way through to the World Series. So you have to avoid that hangover and be ready for what's coming. This is a super veteran team that I think understands that, but I also think it's unrealistic to expect what you got last year out of that same group. And what I almost put in here was, they need a plan to manage Shohei. They're already kind of delaying his start on the mound next season. They need to be careful not to push him because, he's not going to do 50-50 again while pitching. There's just no way. So, and traditionally when you look at his stats, the years he's pitched more than others, his offense has come down because he's doing both. They need to take that into consideration. You cannot push him too far. You do not want another Tommy John. You do not want his performance of the plate to suffer too much. You got to find that balance.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. I can't really buy a present for someone because they already purchased it themselves.
It's fair.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is they put it on layaway, so they'll pay it off in 5 years.
Facts. For me, it's healthy starting rotation, so I'm going to put Band-Aids under the tree for them. I mean, for them to even make a World Series run, let alone win it. I mean, yes, I know the offense and everything. They got 4 Hall of Famers on that team. If not, the arms that didn't go to the playoffs is just as alarming.
Right.
Like, I mean, it really
you left an all-star team at home.
I mean, and that, I mean, it's wild to me. And I mean, that's even a couple of years without Buehler with his arm problems and Kershaw. Like, I mean, I don't know what Kershaw would have necessarily brought to you healthy, but
it doesn't hurt.
Dustin May was Dustin May was a big loss out of that rotation. I mean, they were just cycling guys through. Like, again, another manager that we have been on nonstop with Dave Roberts and his on-field management. He actually, because he seemed like he was just a puppet for the front office. Like the front office was running the play-by-play things, but I felt like you could actually see him manage the games throughout the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Like he was just as important as Shohei, as Betts, as Freeman. because the way he worked that bullpen, and that bullpen was dominant. That was Dave Roberts finally doing what he needed to do in the right situations. He was actually feeling the game and making the decisions in that moment. And that's the first time I've seen Dave Roberts do that.
Yep.
So kudos to Dave Roberts.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a healthy starting rotation for me.
And what's ironic right now is this is a team with no left fielder, no right fielder, and potentially a rookie center fielder. Assuming you put Betts at shortstop and maybe Edman goes to second. So Gavin Lux goes to the bench, but you potentially don't have an outfield right now. At this point in the offseason with all these moves. So they're in a weird place right now. I mean, granted that roster is still loaded. The pitching staff is still loaded. They're going to be fine, but it is funny to be here in December, defending world champions. They don't necessarily even have an outfield for next year.
Well, they signed Conforto, so he'll go out in the outfield.
Yeah.
And you have 5 guys that can play all 9 positions. But like,
for Christ. Teoscar's not coming back. Betts is moving to shortstop. So you solve your shortstop problem, but you open up a right field problem. Lux was unexciting at second base. So maybe you put Edman there. Lux becomes your utility guy. So really you've got 2 outfield positions that are sort of empty. Conforto could slide in, but he's not going to give you what Teoscar or Betts did.
No, but Pajes will play center most likely. And they'll figure out left field. They could
probably play without a left fielder or right fielder and still win. That roster is just so loaded.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, San Diego Padres. What do you got?
They got to replace Profar. Whether you bring Profar back or not, which it seems like they're not interested in bringing him back, you got to replace his production. That's not a team that can lose a step this year because they were so close last year. You can't go backwards. Mm-hmm. You've got to replace his production. Maybe you go get Teoscar and steal from the enemy. I don't know, but you got to fill that spot.
Yeah. For me, it's get rid of Bogarts in that contract. I mean, as Red Sox fans, we hated to see Xander Bogaerts go, especially for nothing. I don't even get me started there. But that contract he signed in San Diego, we were all like, you can have him.
Yeah, amen.
That's brutal. I never would have given him, what was that, 11 years? I just
it was 11 years. Yeah, it was insane.
So they need to trade Bogarts and dump that contract somehow, some way.
Yeah, 11 years, 280.
Yeah, no. No thanks.
Horrendous.
Find a way to get rid of that.
With a full no trade clause and a hotel suite on road trips.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah, and John, you're not wrong here. This might be the comment of the night.
That 100%.
Yeah, this might be the comment of the night, no doubt. They are one step from greatness and one step from a dumpster fire. It seems like that's been the Padres for the last 3 or 4 years, to be completely honest.
Arguably, season to season, it varies. Like last year was near greatness. The year before that was a dumpster fire. You don't know season to season which one you're going to get, and that's a lot of personalities. It's a lot to manage. It's just a lot to manage.
Yeah, and I mean they have the rotation. I mean, or had I don't
Darvish, King, but they're talking about maybe trading some guys away. Like Cease might be available. Like I don't know. I don't know how you get that close and then back off.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
granted, Cease was terrible in the playoffs, but
yeah. But I just don't know. I mean, you got there. You were there. You were in the driver's seat. And then you choked.
Oh, bad.
You had all the momentum going back that whole episode with Profar at Dodger Stadium. I go, they're going to go back to San Diego and the Padres are just going to mop the floor with the Dodgers. And to the Dodgers' credit, they didn't let that bother them. And the Padres disappeared.
You had the Dodgers on the mat and you let them get up.
Yeah. Brutal. All right. San Francisco Giants. I said, Nike cleats with speed boosts. They had 68 stolen bases as a team for the entire 2024 year. That's atrocious.
They just barely stole more than Shohei by himself.
Or Ellie.
Yeah, right.
That's really bad. That's not in a game where it's like the league's like, please steal bases. Like, here, we'll just give you second base. Like, we have rules in place where we're just allowing you to take second base, and you guys are choosing not to. 68 teams stolen bases. I had to go back on Baseball Reference and check that 4 or 5 separate times because I was like, I'm missing something. Nope. 68 total steals.
That's awful. Yeah. So they definitely need to be able to run more, but they also need some middle of the order pop. That is a lineup it's got some guys that can hit. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a scary lineup. You go up and down that lineup, and you're like, nobody's really going to hurt you. You know, they're going to string together a bunch of hits to really do any damage to you. They need some power in the middle of the order. They need somebody that's going to scare a pitcher into pitching differently because they're throwing to him. They're not afraid of him. That lineup is not scary.
I mean, another year of development for Helio Ramos, I think, helps. Getting Adames in there definitely helps. Yep. Matt Chapman is still a serviceable hitter, maybe even above serviceable hitter. Like, he's a great major league hitter. He's a gap hitter. Like, you're also hitting in a canyon. That's a big ballpark.
That's a big ballpark, yes.
So, I mean, hard to get middle of the order power, but you're right. I think they need to get some power hitters. But yeah, I think also a good point, John, here. Yeah, line drive hitters and just running the gaps. But instead, they got guys that can't run with guys that hit balls in the gap, but they probably hit it in the gap and they only get a single. Like,
well, and the problem too is that 81 of your games are at other ballparks. You know, you're not taking advantage of the road venues where, you know, some of those balls to the gap could be home runs. They're not threatening. You know, it's a lineup that, you know, you hit a ball in the gap. Well, somebody else has got to come up and get another hit, you know, and when you're getting 6 hits in a game, stringing multiple hits together is hard over and over and over again. Like, somebody's got to be able to come up and do some damage with one swing, and they don't have anybody that scares you.
Yeah.
In that ballpark, they'll wear you out with balls in the gap, but you know, that team does not score nearly enough runs to really be a serious contender.
Yeah, I agree. All right. My Arizona Diamondbacks. My wish for them is a bullpen and a legit closer. Now, I think Justin Martinez is going to fit into that role. This kid, if you have not seen him pitch, he's young, he's raw. He throws 103, 104. Like, he throws straight cheddar. I think they're going to try to mold him into that role because Paul Sewald kind of had some mental stuff go on in the middle of the season and just kind of lost it. Like, legit, he did. I think they had to give him a mental break from the closer role. And he just started coming back at the end of the season, and they didn't, kind of like Clay Holmes, stopped putting him in high leverage situations. But they need more bullpen help. Now, you only got one more year with Gallen. You got one more year, a couple more years with Kelly, I believe. Erod, I don't know what you got with Erod. I was excited about that signing. He's hit or miss. I mean, kind of like he has been his whole career.
Yeah, except for that one season with Boston, he's been pretty inconsistent.
Brandon Pfaadt is an up-and-coming pitcher. That kid is nasty. And then I'll just send it over to you for this one.
Yeah, and then my wish for the D-backs, they need the real Jordan Montgomery to show up. They signed him to be a top-of-the-rotation stabilizer. He was anything but that last year. God, he was so bad. There probably was not a worse starting pitcher in all of baseball than Jordan Montgomery last year. So much so the owner called signing him a mistake, and then Montgomery picked up his option to stay and is coming back. But if the real Jordan Montgomery shows up, he changes that rotation completely. He balances it out. He stabilizes it. He gives you the top of the rotation stopper. Is he a Garrett Cole level guy? No, he's not Garrett Cole, but he is a very serviceable top of the rotation guy who's going to win you a lot of games. He's not going to, you're going to be in every game he pitches, and that's what they need. Yeah. That team scores way too damn many runs to miss the playoffs. It's horrifying how many runs they scored, and they still missed the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
It should not be possible.
No. The most anticipated game for me to watch last year was Montgomery against Snell. They were both making their first start coming off that debacle of an offseason that Scott Boras put him through, which Montgomery did fire Boras. But I was so excited to see that game. And there was actually a pretty good game. Both pitchers came out through very well. And Montgomery looked sharp. And I was like, all right, like he's going to be okay. And then,
right off the cliff after that.
I mean,
that was like the highlight of his season.
Yeah, and they ended up putting him in the bullpen because they're like, we just can't have you start games anymore. Like we just can't.
He was awful.
I think getting him back into his routine. Like, listen, baseball players, if anything else, are creatures of habit, right?
Yep.
I get to the ballpark at 1:03 p.m. every day. I have my cleats on by 1:07 p.m. every day. I am down the tunnel at 1:11. Like, I mean, they're so regimented that it's those exact times and superstitious. Like I'm stretching on the field at 2:07. Like if he's thrown out of that from the beginning of the year, like it's hard to recover. Like he didn't start his spring training till mid-April. So I think if he gets to spring training on time, gets through all the pitching drills and has a full spring training, we might see a different Jordan Montgomery. That's me hoping. But yeah, I really hope he bounces back because the Diamondbacks definitely need him. I don't want the Diamondbacks to sell Ketel, but the Mariners definitely need him. I mean, Ketel Marte is my favorite player to watch in the MLB right now. I think he's absolutely electric.
But that was a terrible trade.
Absolutely terrible. We do all teams. We're not just fans of Arizona. Like we're actually our first team is the Red Sox, but we all have secondary teams that we watch, and the Diamondbacks are my West Coast team. I've been following them the last 2 or 3 years. So, but yeah, we're actually almost done this list, Al, but we've done wish lists for every single team on here, so you can go back and watch if you would like. But Diamondbacks are too good, man. Corbin Carroll needs to have a better first half than he did last year. He definitely hit a sophomore slump and then started to find it towards the end.
Yeah, well, he seemed like he was trying to prove something. He was chasing balls out of the zone, like a lot of stuff he wasn't doing the year before.
Yeah,
some of that is I think they figured out how to pitch to him to get him to chase, but the other part of it too is I think he was trying to prove that like it wasn't a fluke.
Well, they found a hole in his swing with up and in, and they busted him up and in so hard for like 5 months until he figured out how to hit it.
Yep.
But yeah. All right. Last but not least, well,
maybe least.
You could argue at least. My wish for the Padres is just straight up a new division. They have no chance in the NL West. Zero chance.
Ever.
They don't. Move them to the AL West and move the Astros back to the NL, put them in the West. I don't know. They're never going to win in this division ever. They can't. They won't.
No shot. My wish for the Rockies, they need Chris Bryant to retire. He's a shell of his former self. He can't physically do it. That contract's an anchor. The best thing that happened for them is Chris Bryant to retire. That contract goes away, and they can start over, or they can renegotiate and settle with Bryant. But they need to get Bryant off that roster. They need to get that contract off the books, and so they can start over because it is an absolute anchor that is holding them down.
This might be the only way to get the Rockies fans through the season. So, it might be with you, John, right here for sure. Oh man, but yeah, brutal. Yeah,
crazy. But yeah, they need to move on.
Yeah, Al, we already did the Tigers. Yeah, we kind of went through the AL, and then we're just kind of finishing up with the NL here.
Once we're done live, you can watch the replay. If you back it up about an hour from now, you'll see the Tigers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I I so wish for the Rockies to be relevant again.
They were so fun to watch back
were.
in the 90s and early 2000s when they were good. I mean, in the 07 World Series, I mean, those lineups were loaded. You know, there's always the talk of the humidors and pitching there and blah, blah, blah. But like, they were good teams.
Yeah.
And they just have not been relevant in such a long time now.
Yeah. It's definitely hard to
challenging
watch for sure.
And that division, to your point, is not helping them. That division's gotten better and they are very much out of place.
Yeah, absolutely. So that does it for our All I Want for Christmas. Crazy.
We got through all 30 teams.
Well, we did all right. Yeah. Al, we're not coming on tomorrow. We usually come on every Monday at 8 p.m. We do like a weekly roundup. We do special things. We usually do trivia and the news of the week and then a topic. But yeah, we chat with everybody in the chat and interact with all you guys. So definitely come back. But yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we usually are on.
Yeah, we're definitely on every Monday, and then we occasionally pop on like on a Thursday or Friday and just talk about what's going on if stuff's going on.
Yeah.
And during the season, you'll see us with watch parties. We'll be watching a game, talking baseball. People can drop in.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, Harrison, thanks for bringing that. That was a lot of fun to do. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was fun to do, and it was. I mean, it was a lot to put together, but it was a lot of fun. You know, trying to keep with that Christmas theme and, you know, try to make a game out of it. And no trivia tonight. You know, we broke from the usual show structure, but hope people enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks for all the comments, guys. Like that was, we love the interaction. We love shows like this where it brings all the fans out, because Harrison and I are just huge baseball fans, and that's why we started this. Like I said earlier in the show, like we don't have credentials. We're not reporters. We're not media. We're nothing. We're just two guys that love baseball and we're knowledgeable about it, and we want to share it with you fans. And we love your input, and we love that part of the interaction. But yes, Merry Christmas to everybody. Be safe. Enjoy your families.
Yeah, and thank you really so much for the support, for stopping in. We appreciate everybody that you know gives us their time. You know, the most valuable thing you've got is your time. We appreciate you spending it with us. Hope you enjoy it, but love having you around. Yeah, absolutely. So most likely we won't be on for the rest of the week, because it's probably going to be pretty slow from the rest of the week on here. Yeah, something happens, we might, but otherwise,
yeah. But we will be on next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before you go, if you haven't already, please like and follow on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram and Rumble. You can also subscribe on YouTube or listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also go on our Facebook page, click on the links to Dick's Sporting Goods, Lids, and MLB Shop to buy whatever you want. Go ham, like I say. Just absolutely buy whatever you want. It helps support us, and it's a way that we don't ask you guys directly for money. All the support is greatly appreciated. Again, thanks again so much for stopping by, guys. This is one of the funnest shows I think we've done in the 3 years we've been doing this. Like, this was an absolute blast. So, and that's because of all of you. So, I mean, I see Harrison's ugly mug every week, so it's good to have some other input for sure. But no, we really appreciate it, guys. We'll be on next Monday at 8 p.m., if not sooner. So keep your eyes out. Until then, have a safe Merry Christmas, and we'll see you. Thank you all. See you soon.